Hello guys. Welcome to Soul Fiction. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto had Kawaki's body modification abilities. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's dive into the story. The amber glow of dawn had just begun to paint the horizon as Naruto Uzumaki leapt through the dense forest canopy outside Konoha's borders. His movements were fluid and precise, each jump covering impossible distances as he led his four-man squad deeper into uncharted territory. At 20 years old, the whisker-marked shinobi had grown into a formidable force, his orange and black attire now complemented by the distinctive red sage coat that marked him as one of Konoha's elite. 2 kilometers to the target location, Naruto called back without breaking stride, sensing the chakra signatures of his teammates close behind him. Remember, we're here to investigate, not engage. Shikamaru Nara, now sporting a short beard and the Jonin vest that suited his tactical mind, caught up to Naruto's right flank. Let's go over the intel once more. Anbu scouts reported unusual energy spikes from these coordinates, energy that matches neither chakra nor any known jutsu. The readings align with speculative Otsutsuki technology. Which is precisely why Kakashi-sama sent us, added Sakura, her medical pack secure against her back as she navigated the branches with practiced ease. If it's Otsutsuki in origin, we need to understand it before someone else weaponises it. Sai, completing their formation, maintained his characteristic stoic expression. My reconnaissance birds detected no human presence within a 5-kilometer radius of the site. Whatever is generating the energy appears to be autonomous. Naruto nodded, the morning light catching in his deep blue eyes that had seen far too much war for his age. Years after the Fourth Great Ninja War, peace remained fragile, a balance maintained through strength and vigilance. As the hero who had saved the world multiple times over, Naruto's reputation preceded him across nations. Gone was the underestimated orphan. In his place stood a shinobi whose name alone deterred conflicts. I sense something different, Naruto said, his brow furrowing slightly. The Nine Tails chakra that coursed through his body had become an extension of his senses, allowing him to detect anomalies that others couldn't perceive. It's not chakra, but it's resonating somehow. The forest thinned as they approached a rocky outcropping that seemed unnaturally placed against the lush landscape. The formation was geometric, too perfect to be natural, with smooth surfaces that reflected the morning light in ways that stone should not. This is it, Shikamaru confirmed, consulting a small device developed by Konoha's scientific ninja weapons team. Energy readings are off the charts. The squad slowed their approach, scanning for traps or defensive measures. Finding none, they landed in a small clearing before the structure. Up close, what had appeared to be rock revealed itself as an exotic metal alloy with intricate patterns etched into its surface, patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. I've never seen material like this, Sakura said, reaching out cautiously before thinking better of it. It's not conducting chakra, but it seems to be processing it somehow. Naruto stepped forward, his senses heightened through sage mode. The connection to natural energy allowed him to perceive the strange monument in wavelengths beyond normal vision. There's a hollow space inside, and something alive. Before his teammates could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. The geometric structure began to transform, panels sliding and reconfiguring with mechanical precision until an entrance materialized before them. That definitely wasn't in the mission brief, Shikamaru muttered, already formulating contingency plans. We proceed with caution, Naruto decided, his tone leaving no room for debate. Sakura, you and Sai secure the perimeter. Shikamaru and I will investigate inside. 10 minutes. If we're not back, you contact Konoha immediately. The interior of the structure defied expectations. Rather than the primitive design one might expect from ancient technology, the chambers were arranged with clinical precision, sleek surfaces lined with pulsing symbols that emitted a pale blue light. The air inside felt charged, as though saturated with potential energy. This architecture, Shikamaru whispered, his analytical mind cataloging every detail. It's Otsutsuki, but different from anything we've encountered before. More evolved. They proceeded through a corridor that seemed to respond to their presence, lighting their path as they advanced while dimming behind them. The passage opened into a central chamber dominated by a raised platform. Atop it hovered a crystalline object no larger than a fist, suspended in an energy field that distorted the air around it. What is that? Naruto wondered aloud, taking a step closer. Shikamaru held up the sensor device, which was now emitting a high-pitched tone. Whatever it is, it's the source of the energy readings. Naruto, we should wait for. His warning came too late. The moment Naruto stepped onto the platform, the crystal pulsed with intense light. Concentric rings of energy expanded outward, passing through both shinobi harmlessly but triggering a cascade of activations throughout the chamber. Displays materialized in the air, three-dimensional projections showing anatomical models of various species, culminating in what appeared to be an Otsutsuki physiology. It's some kind of research facility, Shikamaru realized, eyes widening as he processed the implications. They were studying physical enhancement ways to modify biological forms. The crystal rose higher, rotating faster as it scanned Naruto with invisible beams. Before either could react, it discharged a concentrated burst of energy directly into Naruto's chest. Naruto! Shikamaru shouted, his shadow possession jutsu instinctively reaching out to pull his friend away but finding nothing to grip in the pulsing light. For Naruto, time seemed to stop. The energy neither burned nor froze. Instead, it resonated with something deep within his cellular structure. He could feel it interfacing with his chakra network, with the Nine Tails power, with the unique Uzumaki vitality that had defined his bloodline. The sensation wasn't painful so much as transformative, as though his body was being rewritten at the most fundamental level. When the light faded, Naruto remained standing, apparently unharmed but with a strange metallic sheen momentarily visible beneath his skin before it faded from view. I'm okay, he said, sounding surprised himself. Actually, I feel. The structure suddenly shuddered violently. Warning symbols flashed across the projected displays as systems began to overload. Self-destruct sequence. Shikamaru translated from the patterns he recognized. We need to move now. They sprinted back through the corridors as the facility began to collapse around them, reaching the entrance just as Sakura and Sai were preparing to come after them. Run! Naruto shouted, grabbing Sakura's arm as he passed. The four shinobi barely cleared the perimeter before the structure imploded, collapsing inward with surprising control rather than exploding outward as expected. Where the mysterious facility had stood moments before, only a perfectly circular depression remained in the earth, devoid of debris or radiation, as though the structure had never existed at all. What happened in there? Sakura demanded, scanning Naruto for injuries. Some kind of scan, Shikamaru explained, still processing what they'd witnessed. And then it did something to Naruto. All eyes turned to the blonde shinobi, who was examining his hands with fascination. I feel different. Like my chakra is interfacing with something new. We need to get you back to Konoha, Sakura said firmly, medical training overriding her curiosity. Lady Tsunade needs to examine you immediately. As they prepared to depart, none of them noticed the microscopic changes already occurring throughout Naruto's body, cells reorganizing, neural pathways reconfiguring, chakra adapting to accommodate something entirely new. Within him, ancient Otsutsuki science had found the perfect vessel. A human with enhanced healing, extraordinary chakra reserves, and the cellular adaptability to integrate rather than reject the modifications. The journey back to Konoha was tense but uneventful. Naruto insisted he felt fine, better than fine, actually, but his teammates' concern was evident in their vigilant formation around him. The strange sensation continued to spread throughout his body, a subtle warmth that seemed to map his internal systems with meticulous precision. They were halfway home when the ambush struck. 8 figures in unmarked tactical gear dropped from the canopy above, surrounding the Konoha squad with practiced efficiency. Their chakra signatures were masked, a technique employed by elite assassins, but their intent was clear from the specialized weapons they carried. Konoha shinobi, their leader spoke through a voice modulator, surrender the Uzumaki and the rest of you may leave unharmed. Naruto stepped forward, his posture relaxed despite the threat. You know who I am, yet you still think this is a good idea? There was no arrogance in his tone, just a simple statement of fact. The days when enemies underestimated Naruto Uzumaki were long gone. We know exactly who you are, the leader replied, and what you just acquired. The technology was never meant for human integration. Hand it over, along with yourself, and your village need not suffer. Shikamaru's eyes narrowed. How could they possibly know about the facility already? Unless They were monitoring it, Sai finished, his tanto drawn and ready, which means they're not from any allied nation. The attackers moved with synchronized precision, each one targeting a specific member of the Konoha squad with jutsu calibrated to counter their known abilities. The leader and 3 others converged on Naruto, deploying a specialized sealing technique designed to separate him from the Nine Tails chakra. Under normal circumstances, even Naruto would have needed to dodge such a targeted assault. Instead, something instinctive took over, a new awareness of his body's capabilities that transcended conscious thought. As the sealing tags wrapped around him in glowing chains, Naruto felt the foreign technology within him respond. His right arm transformed before everyone's eyes, flesh and bone reconfiguring into a metallic alloy that absorbed the sealing jutsu on contact. The chains shattered like glass, their energy redirected through Naruto's modified limb and back toward the attackers. What the? The leader barely had time to register shock before Naruto closed the distance between them with unprecedented speed. The fight that followed wasn't so much a battle as a demonstration. Naruto moved with fluid precision, his partially transformed arm shifting shapes to counter each attack. When a fire jutsu engulfed him, his skin developed a heat-resistant layer that dispersed the flames. When lightning struck, his body channeled it harmlessly into the ground. Each adaptation happened instantaneously, as though his cells were learning and evolving with every exchange. Sakura, Sai, and Shikamaru dispatched their opponents with practiced teamwork, but found themselves pausing to watch Naruto with growing amazement. This wasn't the raw power they'd witnessed during the war, this was something more refined, more integrated. Naruto wasn't just overpowering his enemies, he was systematically neutralizing their every advantage. The leader, realizing the futility of their mission, attempted to retreat. Naruto's arm extended impossibly, fingers elongating into cable-like appendages that wrapped around the fleeing assassin and immobilized him 20 meters away. "Now," Naruto said, pulling the captured enemy back effortlessly, "you're going to tell us exactly who sent you." The interrogation was brief but informative. The assassins belonged to a mercenary organization contracted by multiple clients interested in Otsutsuki technology. They had been monitoring the facility for months, waiting for someone to trigger its activation protocols, someone with the biological compatibility to integrate with the technology. "You have no idea what's happening to your body," the leader said, a mix of fear and reverence in his voice despite his defiance. "That technology was designed to evolve its host beyond human limitations. You're becoming something they'll fear, something they'll hunt." "Who will?" Shikamaru pressed. "Everyone," came the simple answer. "Every village, every organization that understands power. What you carry inside you now could shift the balance of the entire shinobi world." Before they could extract more information, the captive activated a suicide jutsu, a neural toxin that killed him instantly despite Sakura's attempts to intervene. The remaining assassins, though incapacitated, followed suit in perfect synchronization. "A dead man trigger," Sai observed grimly, "activated remotely when their leader fell." Naruto stared at his arm as it reverted to normal appearance, though he could still feel the technology active beneath his skin. "We need to report this to Kakashi-sensei immediately." The Hokage's office was uncharacteristically crowded when they arrived in Konoha. Kakashi Hitaki sat behind his desk, his masked face unreadable as always, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his concern. Beside him stood Tsunade, technically retired but still the village's foremost medical authority. Shizune, Yamato, and representatives from the intelligence division completed the emergency assembly. Naruto stood in the center of the room, his mission teammates having already briefed the Hokage on the encounter. Tsunade approached him with a medical scanner developed specifically for analyzing unknown chakra phenomena. "The technology appears to have bonded with your cellular structure at a fundamental level," she explained, eyes fixed on the readings. "It's not just an implant or a foreign object, it's become part of your genetic makeup, integrating with your chakra network and enhancing your natural abilities." "Can you remove it?" Kakashi asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Tsunade shook her head. "Removal would be like trying to separate his Uzumaki DNA from the rest. It's not just in him, it is him now." "How is this possible?" Yamato questioned. "Even Orochimaru's most advanced experiments couldn't achieve cellular integration this complete. The Otsutsuki operated on a technological level far beyond our understanding," Shikamaru offered. "From what we saw in that facility, they were researching ways to perfect their own physical forms. This technology was designed to evolve its host. Naruto, who had remained unusually quiet, finally spoke. I can feel it adapting. Learning. Every minute, I discover new ways to control it. He held out his hand, and before everyone's eyes, his fingers transformed into precision tools, metallic, gleaming, and undeniably powerful. It responds to my intent almost before I consciously form it. The demonstration sent ripples of murmured concern through the room. Konoha had always been at the forefront of ninja innovation, but this transcended traditional ninjutsu entirely. The political ramifications are significant, Kakashi noted, ever the pragmatist. If other villages learn of this development, they already know, Naruto cut in. Those assassins weren't working alone. Someone has been monitoring that facility, waiting for this technology to be discovered. A heavy silence fell over the gathering as the implications sank in. Naruto Uzumaki, already one of the most powerful shinobi alive, had just acquired abilities that defied classification. We need to understand the full extent of these modifications, Tsunade decided. Nato, I want you in the medical research facility immediately. We'll establish a secure perimeter and bring in our top scientists. And in the meantime, Kakashi added, this information remains classified at the highest level. No one outside this room is to know the details of what happened. As the meeting dispersed, Hinata Hyuga waited anxiously in the corridor outside. As one of the few people cleared to know of Naruto's return, she had rushed to the Hokage Tower the moment she'd heard about the emergency meeting. Naruto-kun, she called softly as he emerged, her pearl-like eyes searching his face with barely concealed worry. Their relationship had grown steadily since the war, though both remained private about the exact nature of their bond. Are you all right? I heard there was an incident. Looking at her, the genuine concern in her eyes, the gentle strength that had always supported him, Naruto felt a surge of protective instinct that transcended even his new abilities. I'm fine, Hinata. Actually, I'm more than fine. Something's changed, but it's not bad. Before he could elaborate, Tsunade interrupted. Hinata, your Byakugan might be invaluable for our analysis. Would you accompany us to the research facility? In the sterile environment of Konoha's advanced medical center, Naruto underwent a battery of tests while Hinata observed his chakra network with her Kekkei Genkei. What she saw left her breathless. His chakra pathways are being reconstructed, she reported, the veins around her eyes prominent as she maintained her visual jutsu. The technology isn't just sitting alongside his network, it's enhancing it, optimizing the flow in ways I've never seen before. Tsunade monitored multiple screens displaying real-time data on Naruto's physiology. His cells are exhibiting unprecedented adaptive properties. When stimulated with different types of energy, they instantly reconfigure to either absorb, redirect, or neutralize it. Naruto lay on the examination table, eyes closed as he focused inward. The more he concentrated, the more he could sense the modifications spreading throughout his system, not invasively, but cooperatively, as though the technology had recognized his body as the ideal partner for whatever purpose it had been designed. I can control it, he said suddenly, opening his eyes, not just reactively, but proactively. To demonstrate, he sat up and held out his arm. Before the astonished observers, his hand transformed into a perfect replica of a specialized medical instrument Tsunade had been using moments earlier. The transformation was fluid, precise, and apparently painless. Incredible, Shizune whispered. The level of control required for that kind of precise transformation. Hinata stepped closer, her Byakugan still active. Naruto-kun, your chakra is perfectly synchronized with the transformations. It's as though your body has always had this ability. That evening, as word of an incident involving Team Kakashi spread through Konoha's upper echelons, Naruto sat alone on the Hokage monument, overlooking the village as the sun set. The full implications of his transformation were still unfolding in his mind, each hour bringing new awareness of capabilities he'd never imagined. The soft sound of footsteps behind him announced Sasuke's arrival before the Uchiha spoke. I heard you encountered Otsutsuki technology. Sasuke had returned to Konoha only occasionally since the war, his self-appointed mission to investigate remnants of Kaguya's influence keeping him in the shadows. News travels fast, Naruto replied without turning, unsurprised by his friend's appearance despite the supposed classification of the mission. Sasuke settled beside him, his mismatched eyes scanning the horizon. Not news. Intelligence. There are organizations tracking every piece of Otsutsuki legacy left on this planet. He glanced sideways at Naruto. Show me. Without hesitation, Naruto held out his hand. The transformation began at his fingertips, skin softening before hardening into a metallic alloy. Bone structure reconfiguring, chakra pathways adapting to accommodate the new form. Within seconds, his arm had become a perfectly articulated weapon, reflecting the dying sunlight with an otherworldly sheen. Sasuke's understated reaction belied his intense interest. His Sharingan activated, recording the transformation in perfect detail. It's not like any jutsu I've seen. The cellular restructuring is happening at the quantum level. It feels natural, Naruto admitted, returning his arm to normal. Like my body was always meant to do this, but just needed the key to unlock it. Sasuke's expression darkened slightly. The Otsutsuki didn't create technologies like this without purpose, Naruto. Whatever you've integrated with, it was designed with a specific goal likely to perfect their own kind. Or to create weapons. Naruto acknowledged the possibility that had been gnawing at him. But intentions don't determine outcomes. The Nine Tails was used as a weapon of destruction for generations before becoming my partner. This technology is a tool, its purpose depends on who wields it. And now that's you. Sasuke stood, his cloak catching the evening breeze. Be careful, Naruto. Power like this attracts attention from forces beyond our borders, beyond our world, even. As Sasuke departed as silently as he'd arrived, Naruto remained on the monument, his thoughts turning to the future. The shinobi world had achieved a fragile peace after the war, but old ambitions and new threats continued to emerge from the shadows. His new abilities would inevitably shift the balance of power, perhaps dramatically. The question wasn't whether he could control these new powers, but how their existence would change the world around him. The answer came sooner than expected. 3 days later, representatives from all 5 great shinobi nations converged on Konoha for an emergency summit. Despite the attempted classification of Naruto's transformation, intelligence networks had picked up enough information to concern the other Kage. Gaara of the Sand, Ai of the Cloud, Chojuro of the Mist, and Kuretsuchi of the Stone sat across from Kakashi in the formal conference room, their expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed apprehension. Let's dispense with diplomatic pretense, the Raikage stated bluntly. Our intelligence indicates that Konoha has acquired unprecedented Otsutsuki technology and integrated it with your most powerful Jinchuriki. The potential implications for the power balance established by the Shinobi Alliance cannot be ignored. Kakashi maintained his composed demeanor. Naruto Uzumaki encountered unknown technology during a standard investigation mission. The interaction was neither planned nor orchestrated by Konoha. Yet the result, Kuretsuchi cut in, is that the hero of the 4th Great Ninja War now possesses capabilities beyond anything in our shared history. Capabilities that could, theoretically, render existing treaties meaningless. Gaara, who had remained silent until now, turned his pale eyes toward his fellow leaders. Naruto Uzumaki has repeatedly demonstrated his commitment to peace and cooperation. His character should not be called into question simply because his abilities have evolved. Character and power are separate considerations, Chojuro noted diplomatically. Even the most benevolent wielder of unprecedented abilities creates anxiety among equals. The debate continued behind closed doors while Naruto waited in an antechamber, listening to the muffled voices discussing his fate as though he were a weapon rather than a person. Beside him sat Hinata, who had refused to leave his side throughout the political turmoil. They're afraid, she observed quietly, her hand resting gently on his. Not of you, but of change, of the unknown. Naruto nodded, his usual impatience tempered by years of diplomatic experience. I understand their concerns. If our positions were reversed, Kakashi-sensei would raise the same questions. Before Hinata could respond, the doors opened to reveal Hikamaru. They're ready for you. Naruto entered the chamber alone, standing before the gathered Kage with the quiet confidence that had become his hallmark. Gone was the brash young ninja who once shouted his ambitions. In his place stood a man who had earned the respect of the shinobi world through actions rather than words. Naruto Uzumaki, Kakashi began formally. The 5 Kage Summit has requested a demonstration of your recently acquired abilities and an assessment of their potential impact on our existing alliance structure. Understanding the diplomatic necessity, Naruto stepped into the center of the room. What you're about to see is not a jutsu, not a Kekkei Genkai, and not a Jinchuriki transformation. It's an integration of advanced technology with my existing biological systems. With that preface, he began a carefully choreographed demonstration. First, small transformations, fingertips becoming precision tools, skin hardening into armor, sensory enhancements that allowed him to identify the unique chakra signature of each person in the room without hand signs or visible effort. Then, more dramatic capabilities. His arm reconfiguring into a complex mechanism that absorbed and neutralized a fire jutsu volunteered by Kuretsuchi. His cellular structure adapting to match the density of the Raikage's lightning armor. His body processing and redirecting natural energy with an efficiency that surpassed even Sage mode. As you can see, Naruto explained as he returned to his natural state, these abilities are defensive and adaptive by nature. They respond to threats but do not inherently create them. The Raikage leaned forward, his massive arms crossed over his chest. And if attacked with intent to kill? What limits exist on these adaptations? The same limits that have always existed for me, Naruto replied evenly. My choices. My values. The promises I've made to protect peace rather than threaten it. A tense silence followed as the cage exchanged glances, years of diplomatic experience allowing them to communicate volumes without words. Finally, Gaara spoke. I move that we recognize these developments not as a threat to our alliance, but as an evolution in Naruto Uzumaki's existing capabilities that have been consistently deployed in defense of all our nations. Seconded, Chojuro said, surprising many with his immediate support. The mist acknowledges that while power can corrupt, Naruto Uzumaki's history suggests he is uniquely resistant to such corruption. The debate continued for another hour, but the momentum had shifted. By the session's end, a new protocol had been established. Naruto would document the development of his abilities through regular reports shared with all 5 nations, while a joint research initiative would be formed to study the implications of Otsutsuki technology for the broader shinobi world. As the summit concluded and the foreign dignitaries prepared to depart, Ino Yamanaka approached Naruto in the corridor outside. As head of Konoha's sensory division, she had been monitoring the summit for security purposes. Quite the performance in there, she said with characteristic directness, tossing her long blonde ponytail over her shoulder. Though I bet you didn't show them everything. Naruto smiled, appreciating her perceptiveness. Some capabilities are still developing. Ino stepped closer, her analytical eyes studying him with professional curiosity. The sensory network detected fluctuations in your chakra signature during the demonstration patterns I've never observed before. Your mind must be processing information differently now. That's one way to put it, Naruto acknowledged. It's like having another consciousness integrated with my own, not separate like Kurama, but more like an extension of myself. Interest sparkled in Ino's blue eyes. The intelligence division would benefit from understanding those mental adaptations. As a Yamanaka, I could help map the changes without invasive procedures. You want to perform a mind transfer on me? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. Not exactly, she clarified. More like a synchronized consciousness technique, a modification of my clan's abilities that allows for observational access rather than control. Before Naruto could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. Security protocols activated instantly as Anbu operatives materialized in defensive formations around the visiting dignitaries. Perimeter breach in sectors 3 and 7, reported an Anbu captain, appearing before them. Multiple hostiles with unknown capabilities. They're specifically targeting this building. Naruto's expression hardened as he turned to Ino. Get to the command center and coordinate the sensory division. I'll handle this. Without waiting for confirmation, he moved toward the nearest exit, his body already beginning to transform in anticipation of combat. The modifications responded to his intent with increasing fluidity, armor-like plates forming across his torso and limbs while maintaining flexibility at key joints. Outside, chaos had erupted across Konoha's diplomatic district. A coordinated assault team using advanced chakra suppression technology had bypassed multiple security layers to strike at the heart of the village during the 5-cage summit, a brazen statement as much as an attack. Naruto assessed the situation from an elevated position, his enhanced senses cataloging enemy positions, capabilities, and attack patterns within seconds. There were 27 assailants, all employing similar techniques to the assassins from the forest but with more sophisticated equipment and greater coordination. Naruto Uzumaki, called their commander, a tall figure in specialized armor that concealed all identifying features. This demonstration is for you and the assembled leaders. Witness the futility of your new powers against true technological superiority. The commander activated a device on his wrist, and massive energy cannons materialized throughout the battlefield, automated weapons platforms that locked onto Naruto's chakra signature with deadly precision. Evacuate the civilians, Naruto shouted to the defending shinobi as the cannons powered up with an ominous whine. Rather than retreat, he charged directly toward the nearest weapon, his body transforming as he moved. The first cannon fired a concentrated beam of energy that would have vaporized ordinary matter on contact. Instead of dodging, Naruto extended his transformed arm, which reconfigured into a prismatic array that caught the energy and split it into harmless fragments. The attackers hadn't anticipated this level of adaptation. Their weapons had been designed to counter traditional ninjutsu, not Naruto's evolving capabilities. As a second cannon targeted him, Naruto's body developed a reflective surface that redirected the blast back at its source, destroying the weapon platform in a spectacular explosion. From the Hokage Tower, the assembled cage watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and strategic assessment. What they witnessed wasn't raw power, but precision. Naruto neutralizing threats with minimal collateral damage, protecting civilians and infrastructure while systematically dismantling the enemy force. Now we see the true application of his abilities, Gaara observed quietly. Not overwhelming force, but calculated response proportionate to the threat. On the battlefield, Naruto moved with increasingly fluid transformations. His arms extended into cable-like appendages to rescue civilians trapped by debris. His body developed specialized sensors to detect hidden enemies. When surrounded, he created a defensive perimeter by transforming his chakra into a network of interlocked barriers. The commander, seeing his forces systematically neutralized, activated a final protocol, a massive pulse generator designed to disrupt all chakra-based abilities within its radius. As the device powered up with earth-shaking intensity, Konoha's defenders retreated to minimum safe distance. Naruto stood his ground. The pulse detonated with blinding force, spreading outward in a dome of anti-chakra energy that stripped away jutsu and disrupted chakra networks on contact. When the light faded and the dust settled, the commander expected to find Naruto incapacitated, at minimum his new abilities hopefully disrupted beyond repair. Instead, Naruto stood unchanged, his transformed body having adapted to the very frequency of the disruptive pulse. Not only had he remained unaffected, but he had absorbed the technology's signature, analyzing and cataloging it for future reference. Impossible, the commander whispered, backing away as Naruto approached with measured steps. Your mistake, Naruto said calmly, was assuming this technology is just an enhancement of what I was before. It's more fundamental than that. It doesn't just amplify my abilities, it evolves them beyond conventional limitations. To demonstrate, Naruto extended his hand. From his palm emerged a perfect replica of the commander's pulse generator, reconstructed from the energy signature Naruto had absorbed. The miniaturized device powered up with the same ominous whine, but calibrated specifically to the frequency of the attacker's equipment. One pulse was all it took to disable every piece of technology the invasion force had brought, leaving them defenseless as Konoha's shinobi moved in to secure the perimeter. The commander, his systems failing and his forces captured, removed his helmet to reveal features that shocked everyone present. Though mostly human in appearance, his eyes contained the unmistakable pattern of Otsutsuki influence, pale, ringed irises that spoke of genetic manipulation rather than natural heritage. You think you've won something today, he said, his voice now unmodulated and resonant with unnatural harmonics. But you've merely accelerated the inevitable. The technology you've integrated was never meant for human vessels. The evolution has begun, and it cannot be stopped. Before anyone could interrogate him further, the commander's body began to destabilize cellular breakdown that suggested his own modifications had been less successfully integrated than Naruto's. Within moments, he collapsed into dust, leaving behind only his equipment as evidence of the encounter. In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the injured and security forces secured the captured attackers, Naruto found himself surrounded by the five Kage, who had descended from the tower to witness the resolution firsthand. I believe, Kakashi said, addressing his fellow leaders, we have our answer regarding Naruto's capabilities and intentions. The Raikage nodded grudgingly. A most effective demonstration, though it raises as many questions as it answers. Questions we should address together, Gaara suggested, looking around the circle of leaders. This technology, these enhanced abilities, they represent both opportunity and risk for all our nations. Naruto, his body returned to normal appearance though the technology remained active beneath his skin, faced the assembled leaders with quiet resolve. Whatever this power is, whatever it's becoming, I make the same promise I've always made. To use it in defense of peace, in defense of those who cannot defend themselves. The sincerity in his voice, backed by years of consistently honoring similar promises, resonated with even the most skeptical among them. By day's end, what had begun as an emergency summit to address a potential threat had transformed into the foundation for a new era of cooperation, one where Naruto's evolved abilities would serve as a protective deterrent for the entire alliance rather than an advantage for any single nation. That night, as Konoha's recovery efforts continued under the stars, Naruto stood on his apartment balcony, reflecting on the day's events. His body had performed beyond even his own expectations, adapting to threats with increasing sophistication and minimal conscious direction. A gentle knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. When he opened it, Hinata stood in the hallway, concern evident in her eyes despite her attempt at a reassuring smile. "I thought you might want company," she said softly, "after everything that happened today." Naruto welcomed her inside, grateful for her presence, for the grounding influence she had always provided amid chaos. As they settled on his small couch, he found himself studying her with new awareness, his enhanced senses detecting subtle changes in her chakra flow that correlated with her emotional state. "You're worried," he observed, not as a question but a gentle acknowledgement. Hinata's eyes widened slightly at his perception before her expression softened. "Not about you, for you. I saw how they looked at you during the summit, Naruto-kun. Not as a person, but as a weapon," he finished when she hesitated. "I know, it's not the first time." She reached out, her slender fingers brushing against his hand where she had seen the transformation begin earlier. "Is it painful when you change?" "No," Naruto replied truthfully. "It feels natural, like flexing a muscle I didn't know I had." He demonstrated by allowing a small section of his palm to transform the skin, taking on a metallic sheen that rippled like water before solidifying. "I can feel everything still, maybe even more intensely than before." Hinata activated her Byakugan to observe the transformation at the chakra level. What she saw made her gasp softly. "Your chakra network is evolving," she whispered in awe. "The pathways are creating new connections, becoming more efficient. It's beautiful, like watching a constellation form." Naruto looked at her with genuine curiosity. "Beautiful? Most people would find it unsettling." "I've always seen you differently than most people," she reminded him with a small smile, her cheeks coloring slightly at the admission. The years had made her more confident but hadn't erased her endearing tendency to blush around him. Acting on impulse or perhaps responding to something his enhanced senses detected in her chakra, Naruto leaned forward and kissed her. The contact was gentle but charged with an electricity that had nothing to do with his new abilities. When they separated, both slightly breathless, Hinata's Byakugan was still active, allowing her to see the subtle flare of his chakra responding to the moment. "Your chakra. It reacts to emotions even more strongly now," she observed, her voice barely above a whisper. Before he could respond, a sharp knock at the door interrupted the moment. Naruto sensed the visitor's identity immediately, another new ability that still surprised him. "It's Ino," he said, reluctantly moving away from Hinata to answer the door. The Yamanaka Kunoichi stood in the hallway with a determined expression that suggested this wasn't a social call. "Intelligence Division needs you," she stated without preamble. "We've decoded some of the technology recovered from the attack. There's something you need to see." Hinata rose from the couch, gracefully accepting the interruption. "I should head home anyway. My father will be expecting a report on today's events." As she prepared to leave, Naruto caught her hand. "Hinata. Thank you for seeing me, not just what I can do." Her smile was worth more than all the political validation he'd received that day. Konoha's Intelligence Division headquarters hummed with activity despite the late hour. Analysts pored over recovered equipment while security teams processed the captured attackers. At the center of operations, Ibiki Morino and Shikamaru were examining holographic projections of unfamiliar technology. "The prisoners aren't talking," Ibiki reported as Naruto and Ino entered the secure briefing room. "Standard interrogation techniques are ineffective against their mental conditioning." Shikamaru manipulated the hologram to highlight specific components. Their equipment is decades ahead of anything in our arsenal. Some components don't even register on our analytical instruments. It's like they operate on principles we haven't discovered yet. But we did find this, Ino added, activating a separate display. Three-dimensional map materialized, showing locations marked across the known continent and beyond, into uncharted territories. It appears to be a network of facilities similar to the one you discovered. Naruto studied the map intently, his enhanced visual processing allowing him to identify patterns invisible to others. They're arranged in a specific geometric formation, centered around. Here. He pointed to a location deep in the land of lightning's most remote mountain range. That's where we intercepted communications from, confirmed a communications specialist. Brief transmissions, heavily encrypted, but consistent with a command center of some kind. Shikamaru's expression grew more serious. Whatever organization these attackers belong to, they've been operating in the shadows for years, maybe decades. They knew about the Otsutsuki technology before we did and have been systematically cataloging it across the continent. Which means today's attack wasn't just about me, Naruto concluded. It was a statement to the 5K, a demonstration of their capabilities and intentions. Ibiki nodded grimly. And a test of yours. They wanted to see how far your integration has progressed. The implications hung heavy in the air. An organization with advanced technology, Otsutsuki connections, and a mysterious agenda had been monitoring the shinobi world from the shadows, and now they had revealed themselves, challenging not just Konoha but the entire alliance structure. We need more information, Shikamaru decided. A covert reconnaissance mission to that central facility. Small team, maximum deniability. Naruto nodded in agreement. I'll lead it. Actually, Ino interjected, before you plan any missions, there's something else we need to address. She turned to Naruto with clinical professionalism. Your neural patterns are changing at an accelerating rate. If we're going to understand the full extent of your transformation, I need to establish a baseline of your current cognitive structure. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. You want to perform a mind transfer technique on him? With unknown technology integrating into his system? A modified version, Ino clarified. Observational only, no attempt at control. It's the safest way to map the changes without invasive procedures. The decision was made to proceed immediately, while the intelligence division continued analyzing the recovered technology. In a specialized chamber designed for Yamanaka clan techniques, Naruto sat cross-legged on a prepared seal array while Ino knelt opposite him. This won't be like a standard mind transfer, she explained as medical sensors were attached to both their temples. I'll create a synchronized consciousness state, essentially allowing me to observe your cognitive processes without attempting to influence them. Naruto nodded, his usual nervous energy notably absent. The technological integration had brought with it a new calmness, a processing efficiency that allowed him to assess situations without emotional interference while still maintaining his core personality. Ready when you are, he said. Ino formed a sequence of hand signs, ending in a modified version of her clan's signature technique. Mind synchronization jutsu. For Ino, the experience was unlike any mind technique she had previously performed. Instead of the usual disorientation of entering another's consciousness, she found herself in a structured space, a perfect mental representation of Naruto's evolved thought processes. His mind had always been unusually resilient, housing both his own consciousness and the nine tails within a complex seal. Now, that architecture had evolved further, incorporating the Otsutsuki technology into a harmonious system that processed information with remarkable efficiency. Incredible, she whispered, her voice echoing in the shared mental space. Your neural pathways have reconfigured completely. You're processing multiple data streams simultaneously without cognitive strain. As she explored deeper, she encountered the interface between Naruto's consciousness and the integrated technology, not a barrier or division, but a seamless merger that enhanced rather than replaced his natural abilities. The technology wasn't controlling him. It was learning from him, adapting to his specific needs and values. There's something else. Naruto's voice reached her within the shared consciousness. Something I haven't told anyone yet. The mental landscape shifted, revealing a deeper layer of integration. Here, Naruto could perceive energy patterns beyond traditional chakra, quantum fluctuations, electromagnetic fields, even the subtle vibrations of space-time itself. I can sense things I never could before, he explained. Not just chakra or natural energy, but the fundamental forces that shape reality. Ino absorbed this revelation with professional calm, though her amazement was evident in their shared space. This goes beyond physical transformation. You're evolving toward a new state of perception entirely. Their synchronized consciousness continued for nearly an hour as Ino mapped the changes to Naruto's cognitive structure. When she finally released the technique, both opened their eyes to find Shikamaru and a medical team waiting anxiously. "Well?" Shikamaru prompted. Ino took a moment to collect her thoughts, still processing the experience. His mind hasn't been replaced or overridden, it's been enhanced. The technology is integrating with his natural abilities in ways that amplify his strengths without compromising his core identity. "And the risk factors?" the lead medical nin asked. "Minimal, based on current observations," Ino replied. "The integration appears stable and harmonious. If anything, it's making his existing systems more efficient rather than replacing them." Naruto stood, rolling his shoulders as though testing how his body felt after the procedure. "So I'm still me. Just more." "Exactly," Ino confirmed, her professional demeanor slipping slightly to reveal genuine fascination. "And based on the patterns I observed, the integration is still ongoing. Your capabilities will likely continue to evolve." The implications of this assessment weren't lost on anyone present. Naruto Uzumaki, already a pivotal figure in the shinobi world, was becoming something beyond conventional classification. The strategic importance of understanding and properly directing this evolution couldn't be overstated. "We proceed with the reconnaissance mission," Shikamaru decided after consulting briefly with Ibiki, "but with modified parameters. Naruto will lead, with Ino for cognitive monitoring and myself for tactical oversight. Small team, maximum deniability." As preparations began for the mission, Naruto found himself drawn to the Hokage monument once more. The stone faces watching over the village had always provided perspective during times of change. Now, as he sat beneath the carved visage of his father, the fourth Hokage, he contemplated the responsibility that accompanied his evolving abilities. A familiar presence approached from behind Sasuke, returned from whatever shadow mission had occupied him since their last conversation. "The attack today," Sasuke said without preamble, "wasn't random. They've been monitoring that facility for years, waiting for someone compatible to trigger the technology." Naruto nodded. "We figured that much out. There's a network of similar facilities across the continent, all connected to a central location in the Land of Lightning. It goes beyond that," Sasuke continued, his mismatched eyes fixed on the horizon. "During my investigations, I've encountered evidence of an organization that predates the hidden villages, one with direct connections to the Otsutsuki clan. They call themselves Divine Circuit." The name triggered an immediate reaction in Naruto's integrated systems recognition protocols, activating in response to information stored within the technology itself. "The technology recognized that name," he said, surprised. "There's some kind of embedded memory or response." Sasuke's eyes narrowed with interest. "The technology is reacting to its creators. Divine Circuit was formed by humans who encountered the Otsutsuki centuries ago, devotees who believed technological advancement was the path to godhood. And they've been collecting and studying Otsutsuki technology ever since," Naruto concluded, "pieces falling into place, including whatever integrated with me." "They won't stop coming for you," Sasuke warned. "What you've become represents the culmination of their centuries-long objective, the perfect integration of human consciousness with Otsutsuki technology." The weight of this revelation settled over Naruto as he gazed out at the village below, the homes and lives he had sworn to protect, now potentially threatened because of what he had become. Yet unlike earlier periods in his life, this challenge didn't fill him with doubt or fear. The integration had brought with it a clarity of purpose that transcended uncertainty. "Let them come," he said with quiet resolve. "Whatever they planned for this technology, it's part of me now, and I decide what that means." Sasuke studied his friend with analytical precision, noting the subtle changes in his demeanor, the balanced confidence that had replaced his former bravado, the strategic awareness that now complemented his instinctive courage. "You've changed," Sasuke observed, "not just physically." "For the better, I think," Naruto replied with a small smile, "though I'm still figuring it out." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a messenger hawk, circling overhead before descending to deliver its scroll directly to Naruto. The message was brief but urgent. Intelligence reports indicated unusual activity at multiple locations corresponding to the Divine Circuit facility network. "They're mobilizing," Naruto said, sharing the contents with Sasuke. "Activating dormant facilities across the continent." Sasuke's expression hardened. A response to your integration. They're either preparing to counter you or to accelerate their own plans. Either way, we need to move now, Naruto decided, rising to his feet. The reconnaissance mission just became more urgent. As they descended from the monument, Naruto sensed another presence approaching rapidly. Hinata, moving with the urgent grace that characterized her fighting style. Her expression as she located them confirmed the gravity of the situation. Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun, she called, slightly breathless from her sprint. The Hokage has called an emergency meeting. One of the prisoners' talked Divine Circuit is planning simultaneous strikes against all 5 hidden villages within 48 hours. The 3 shinobi exchanged grim looks before moving with coordinated purpose toward the Hokage Tower. Whatever personal implications Naruto's transformation held for him would have to wait. The threat facing the alliance demanded immediate attention. The sun was rising as they reached the tower, casting long shadows across Konoha, a visual reminder of the darkness that threatened to engulf the hard-won peace of the shinobi world. Yet as Naruto's transformed arm caught the first light of dawn, reflecting it with otherworldly brilliance, another truth became equally clear. Sometimes, evolution arrived precisely when it was needed most. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The architects designed the emergency council chamber within Konoha's Intelligence Division headquarters had never been designed for comfort. Stark lighting illuminated a circular table where village leadership had gathered with expressions ranging from grim determination to poorly concealed fear. Tactical displays flickered on wall-mounted screens, showing suspected divine circuit facilities across the 5 great nations. Kakashi Hatake stood at the head of the table, his masked face betraying nothing as he surveyed those assembled. The intelligence is credible. Divine Circuit has activated a network of dormant facilities and is preparing coordinated strikes against all 5 hidden villages. Their objective appears to be the destabilization of the Shinobi Alliance, creating chaos that would allow them to implement the next phase of whatever they've been planning for centuries. How did we miss an organization of this magnitude? Demanded Homura Mitokado, one of Konoha's elders. Operating right under our noses for generations? Shikamaru manipulated one of the tactical displays with practiced efficiency. Because they've evolved alongside our intelligence networks, adapting to evade detection. They don't operate like traditional threats, no distinctive chakra signatures, no battlefield presence, no territory to defend. Just a distributed network of scientists, devotees, and sleeper agents integrated into civilian populations. And now we have 48 hours to neutralize a threat we barely understand, summarized Tsunade, arms crossed as she leaned against the wall. Her youthful appearance belied the calculating mind that had guided Konoha through previous crises. Starting with how they planned to attack 5 heavily defended villages simultaneously. All eyes turned to Naruto, who stood studying the largest display with uncharacteristic stillness. The transformation had affected even his posture. The hyperactive energy of his youth refined into a focused intensity that commanded attention without demanding it. They'll use technology similar to what integrated with me, he said, reaching out to manipulate the display. His fingers elongated slightly as they interfaced directly with the system, pulling data at accelerated speeds. Based on what we recovered from yesterday's attackers, they've developed weapons that target chakra networks, specifically disrupting the very foundation of our defensive capabilities. The display changed to show schematics of recovered equipment devices designed to generate anti-chakra fields that could render traditional ninjutsu useless within their radius. Like the pulse weapon they used yesterday, Shikamaru noted, but deployed across entire population centers. Ibiki Morino, who had personally overseen the interrogation of the captured operatives, stepped forward. The prisoner revealed that these weapons are already in place, smuggled into the villages piece by piece over months or years and assembled by sleeper agents. They're waiting for a synchronized activation signal. Then our first priority is locating and neutralizing these devices, Kakashi decided. Naruto, your ability to sense and interact with this technology makes you essential to this effort. I can do more than that, Naruto replied, his confidence not boastful but measured. The technology integrated with me contains recognition protocols. It can detect and potentially override their systems. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. You're proposing to interface directly with potentially hostile technology. The risk of feedback or system corruption is minimal compared to the risk of doing nothing, Naruto finished. I've been communicating with the integration since yesterday's battle. It's not sentient, but it is responsive, adaptive, and it contains safeguards against unauthorized commands. The strategy materialized quickly. Specialized teams would deploy to each of the 5 hidden villages, led by sensors capable of detecting the subtle energy signatures of divine circuit technology. Meanwhile, a strike team would target the central facility identified in the Land of Lightning, the presumed command center coordinating the impending attack. Naruto will lead the strike team, Kakashi announced, accompanied by Shikamaru for tactical oversight, Ino for cognitive monitoring, and Hinata for Byakugan reconnaissance. "Add me to that list," came Sasuke's voice from the doorway, where he had been observing silently. "My Rinnegan can identify dimensional distortions that might be used for instantaneous deployment of their forces." The meeting concluded with a grim timeline: 12 hours for preparation, 24 for mission execution, leaving a 12-hour buffer before Divine Circuit's attack window closed. As the council dispersed to their respective duties, Naruto remained at the tactical display, absorbing information at a rate that would have been impossible for him just days earlier. Ino approached, observing his interaction with the system. "Your neural processing has accelerated again," she noted with professional interest. "You're assimilating complex data patterns without conscious effort." Naruto nodded without looking away from the display. "It's like the information doesn't just enter my mind, it integrates with it, becoming part of my understanding instantly." "That's consistent with what I observed during our synchronization," she replied, stepping closer to examine the patterns he was studying. "Your cognitive architecture is optimizing itself continuously." As she leaned in, Naruto became acutely aware of her proximity, another enhancement of his transformation. His sensory perception had sharpened to detect subtle changes in body temperature, heartbeat rhythms, even the microscopic dilations of pupils that signaled interest or attraction. Ino's professional demeanor couldn't completely mask the physiological responses that his proximity triggered. "You're curious about the integration," he observed, turning to face her directly, not just professionally. A slight flush colored her cheeks, though she maintained her composure. "Of course I am. From a psychological perspective, this is unprecedented human consciousness merging with advanced technology without losing its essential humanity." Her blue eyes met his with characteristic directness. "You're literally evolving before our eyes, Naruto. How could I not be fascinated?" Her candor brought a smile to his face, the warm, genuine expression that had always been his hallmark, regardless of the changes happening within him. "We'll have plenty of time for you to study it during the mission. After all, you're my designated cognitive monitor." "And don't you forget it," she replied with a playful confidence that belied the seriousness of their situation. "I'll be keeping very close tabs on what's happening in that evolving mind of yours." Their exchange was interrupted by Hinata's arrival, her quiet presence immediately registered by Naruto's enhanced awareness. The subtle shift in Ino's posture and almost imperceptible straightening suggested she too noticed the arrival and perhaps the potential complexity it introduced. "Preparations are underway," Hinata reported, her pearl-like eyes taking in the scene with characteristic perceptiveness. "Neji Nisan is coordinating with the Hyuga clan to provide Byakugan surveillance across the village perimeter." Naruto nodded, grateful for the efficiency of Konoha's clans in moments of crisis. "Your eyes will be crucial for this mission, Hinata. No one else can see chakra networks with your precision." A delicate blush colored her cheeks at the sincere compliment, though years of growth had given her the confidence to maintain eye contact rather than look away. "I won't let you down, Naruto-kun." The interaction wasn't lost on Ino, whose psychological training made her particularly attuned to interpersonal dynamics. She stepped back slightly, creating space for the exchange while maintaining her professional demeanor. "I should check on the neural monitoring equipment for the mission. We'll need specialized sensors to track your integration status in the field." As she departed, Naruto found himself alone with Hinata in the now empty briefing room. The tactical displays continued to cycle through data streams, casting shifting blue light across her features as she studied the information with focused intensity. "You're worried," he observed gently, not a question but an acknowledgement. Hinata's eyes remained on the displays, though a small smile touched her lips. "You've gotten better at reading people." "Another side effect," he admitted. "Enhanced perception includes emotional cues, subtle changes in expression, posture, even how chakra flows through your system when you're concerned." This drew her gaze to him, curiosity temporarily overriding apprehension. "You can see that? Without the Byakugan?" "Not see exactly. More like sense." He struggled to find words for abilities that had no precedent in their shared experience. It's like understanding without analyzing, knowing without observing. Hinata stepped closer, her training as a sensory-type ninja giving her a framework to understand what he described. Like natural energy in Sage mode, but applied to people specifically. Something like that, he agreed, impressed by her intuitive grasp of concepts. He was still exploring himself. This had always been one of Hinata's strengths, understanding him on a level that often surprised even himself. Her expression softened as she reached out, her fingers hovering just above the skin of his forearm where she had seen the transformation begin. "May I?" Naruto nodded, extending his arm in invitation. With gentle precision, she activated her Byakugan and touched his skin. The contact sent ripples through his chakra network visible only to her Kekkei Genkei, intricate patterns of energy responding to her touch with harmonious resonance. "It's beautiful," she whispered, tracing the flow with her fingertip. "Your chakra has always been special, but now, it's like watching a living constellation adapting to each moment." The awe in her voice affected him more deeply than he'd anticipated. Throughout his life, Naruto had been feared, respected, even admired, but rarely had anyone looked at his power with such genuine appreciation for its beauty rather than its utility. Acting on impulse, or perhaps responding to something deeper than conscious thought, he placed his hand over hers, his skin transforming subtly at the point of contact. Not the metallic armor of combat, but something more refined, a crystalline latticework that channeled their combined chakra into visible light, creating a gentle luminescence between their joined hands. Hinata's eyes widened as she witnessed their energy intertwining in patterns impossible to describe in conventional terms. Naruto-kun. The moment stretched between them, intimate and profound, until reality reasserted itself in the form of a tactical alert sounding from the main display. Divine circuit activity had been detected in the Land of Water, one of their dormant facilities activating ahead of schedule. With reluctance, they separated, the glow fading as Naruto's hand returned to normal appearance. "We should join the others," he said softly. "The mission timeline might need adjustment." Hinata nodded, her composure returning as she deactivated her Byakugan. "I'll gather my equipment and meet at the deployment zone." As she turned to leave, Naruto caught her hand once more. "Hinata, thank you, for seeing beauty where others might only see power." Her smile, gentle yet confident, stayed with him as she departed, a reminder of connections that transcended even the profound changes reshaping his existence. The deployment zone buzzed with controlled chaos as specialized teams prepared for simultaneous missions across the continent. Equipment checks, strategy reviews, and final briefings created a symphony of purpose that reflected the hidden village's military efficiency. Naruto found Shikamaru coordinating with communication specialists, ensuring synchronization between the scattered teams. "Timeline adjustment?" he inquired, noting the tactical Nara's furrowed brow. "Minimal impact," Shikamaru replied without looking up from his work. "The water activation appears to be a scheduled systems check rather than early deployment. Intelligence suggests our original timeline remains accurate." He finally glanced up, studying Naruto with the analytical precision that made him Konoha's premier strategist. "Your transformation continues to evolve. The energy signature you're emitting has shifted again, more integrated, less distinguishable from your natural chakra." "You can detect that?" Naruto asked, impressed. Shikamaru had always been observant, but this level of sensory precision was unusual even for him. A wry smile touched the Nara's lips. "Not directly. The sensors we calibrated to track your integration are showing progressive changes in the wavelength pattern. You're becoming something new, Naruto, neither purely human nor technological, but a synthesis of both." Before Naruto could respond, a familiar voice called from across the deployment zone. "Yo, Naruto." Rock Lee approached with characteristic enthusiasm, his green jumpsuit as distinctive as ever among the standard-issue tactical gear surrounding them. At his side walked Ten, whose weapons scrolls were complemented by specialized tools developed by Konoha's scientific ninja weapons team. "Word of your transformation has spread," Lee announced, eyes burning with passionate intensity. "Such a youthful evolution. You must tell me what training regimen has produced such results." Ten rolled her eyes with fond exasperation. "It's not a training result, Lee. It's advanced technology." She turned to Naruto with professional curiosity. "Though I'd love to examine those transformations myself. The weapon's integration potential alone is fascinating." "Perhaps after the current crisis," Naruto replied with a warm smile for his former classmates. Despite the gravity of their situation, these connections grounded him, reminded him of the human community his evolving powers were meant to protect. As more of Konoha's elite Jonin gathered for final briefings, Naruto became aware of subtle changes in how they interacted with him. There had always been respect, especially after his heroics during the war, but now there was something new, a deferential quality that went beyond acknowledgement of rank or achievement. They were responding to something more primal, the instinctive recognition of evolved capability that transcended conventional power structures. Kakashi noticed it too, observing from the command platform with the experienced eye of a leader who understood the delicate balance of military hierarchy. When the briefing concluded and teams began moving toward their deployment positions, he gestured for Naruto to join him in a moment of private conversation. "Your position within the village is changing," the Hokage observed without preamble. "Not officially, but fundamentally. They sense what you're becoming." Naruto nodded, having reached the same conclusion. "It's not something I'm encouraging." "I know," Kakashi assured him. "Which is precisely why it's happening. True authority isn't claimed, it's recognized." He placed a hand on his former student's shoulder. "Just be mindful of the responsibility it brings. People will follow where you lead, even more readily than before." The weight of those words accompanied Naruto as he joined his strike team at the village gates. Sasuke had already arrived, his dark cloak and solitary presence creating a natural perimeter that few approached. Ino was configuring neural monitoring equipment with meticulous precision, while Hinata consulted topographical maps of their target region. Team composition confirmed, Shikamaru announced as he joined them, securing a tactical communications device to his vest. Mission parameters locked. Primary objective: infiltrate the Divine Circuit Central Facility and neutralize the activation signal before it can trigger the coordinated attack. Secondary objective: intelligence gathering on long-term capabilities and intentions. Approach vector? Sasuke inquired, already calculating the most efficient route through potentially hostile territory. Shikamaru unfolded a specialized map marked with sensor data collected over the previous 12 hours. Standard infiltration protocols are compromised. They've established a perimeter detection grid using technology similar to what we recovered yesterday. Traditional chakra concealment won't be effective. Then we don't conceal, Naruto decided, his tactical assessment surprising even Shikamaru. We project a false signature, one they're expecting to detect. Ino caught on immediately. A decoy team broadcasting high chakra signatures to draw attention while we approach from another vector entirely. With minimal chakra output, Hinata added, understanding the strategy. My Byakugan can guide us through blind spots in their sensor network without active jutsu use. Sasuke nodded in rare approval. Efficient. I can use the Rinnegan to create a localized dimensional shift for the final approach, moving us inside their perimeter without traversing physical space. The plan crystallized with remarkable speed, each team member contributing specialized expertise that compounded the effectiveness of the whole. What might have required hours of debate among traditional shinobi emerged organically in minutes, a testament to both their individual capabilities and their evolved teamwork. As final preparations concluded, Ino approached Naruto with the neural monitoring equipment that would track his integration status throughout the mission. This needs direct contact with your chakra network, she explained, holding up a specialized sensor no larger than a coin. Ideally at the base of the skull where cerebral and physical chakra pathways converge. Naruto nodded, turning to allow her access to the indicated position. Her touch was clinically professional as she positioned the device, yet he couldn't help noticing the brief hesitation in her fingers, a momentary appreciation of the transformed energy patterns now visible beneath his skin. Fascinating, she murmured, more to herself than to him. The integration has reached cellular uniformity across your peripheral systems. Is that good or bad? He asked with a hint of his old humor. Her blue eyes met his with scientific precision that couldn't quite mask personal interest. It's unprecedented. Your body isn't just hosting this technology, it's synchronizing with it at a fundamental level. She secured the sensor with a specialized adhesive. I'll be monitoring the neural patterns throughout the mission. If anything changes significantly, I need to know immediately. You'll be the first, he promised, understanding the importance of her role beyond simple data collection. Ino's mind techniques made her uniquely qualified to intervene if the integration began affecting his consciousness in unexpected ways. With equipment checked and strategy confirmed, the strike team departed through Konoha's Eastern Gate. 5 elite shinobi moving with the coordinated purpose that had made the hidden villages legendary. As they cleared the village perimeter, they separated from the decoy team that would draw attention along the main approach routes while they proceeded through less monitored terrain. Their journey through Fire Country's dense forests proceeded with minimal conversation, each member focused on their role in the complex infiltration plan. Naruto found himself naturally taking point position, his enhanced senses providing advance warning of potential threats while Hinata's Byakugan surveyed wider patterns of movement around them. By nightfall, they had crossed into neutral territory between countries, the buffer zones that had emerged after the war as demilitarized regions where no single nation claimed jurisdiction. Here, Divine Circuit had established minimal surveillance, considering the areas too sparse in population and resources to merit significant attention. They made camp in a concealed ravine, establishing a perimeter of subtle sensory barriers rather than active chakra defenses that might be detected. As Shikamaru coordinated encrypted communications with Konoha, updating their progress and receiving intelligence from the teams deployed to other villages, Sasuke disappeared briefly to conduct personal reconnaissance of the surrounding area. Naruto found himself gazing up at the stars, his enhanced perception revealing wavelengths of light invisible to normal human vision. The cosmos appeared more complex, more interconnected than he had ever perceived it, patterns within patterns, energies flowing between seemingly separate bodies in harmonious resonance. "Beautiful, isn't it?" came Ino's voice as she settled beside him, her monitoring equipment displaying his neural patterns on a small handheld device. "Your brainwave activity suggests you're perceiving beyond normal visual spectrum." Naruto nodded, not surprised that she could read the changes in his cognitive processing. It's like seeing the connections between things, not just the things themselves. Everything vibrating at different frequencies but somehow part of the same symphony. Ino studied him with professional fascination that didn't entirely mask personal interest. "Your language centers are adapting to using more complex metaphorical structures to describe experiences that have no standard vocabulary. Is that your clinical way of saying I sound smarter?" he asked with a grin, some of his old playfulness emerging through the evolved exterior. She laughed softly, the sound pleasant in the quiet night. "You always were smarter than you let on, Naruto. But yes, your cognitive integration is accelerating. The technology isn't just enhancing your physical capabilities, it's expanding your mind's processing potential." Her assessment should have been unsettling, a clinical confirmation that he was becoming something other than his former self. Instead, Naruto found her straightforward analysis refreshing. Unlike others who approached his transformation with fear or awe, Ino studied it with professional curiosity balanced by personal concern. "Does it bother you?" he asked suddenly. "Watching someone you've known since childhood change into whatever I'm becoming?" Ino considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. "Change itself doesn't bother me, we've all evolved far beyond what we were as genin." She set aside her monitoring device, giving him her full attention. "What fascinates me is that despite these profound changes, you're still essentially Naruto. Your core personality matrix, the fundamental patterns that make you who you are, remains intact even as everything around it transforms." "How can you be sure?" The question emerged from a place of genuine uncertainty, not fear. "How do you know I'm still me?" Without hesitation, Ino placed her hand on his chest, directly over his heart. The gesture was both professional and intimately personal. "Because this hasn't changed. Your emotional responses, your core values, your fundamental attachments, they remain consistent despite the cognitive and physical evolution." The simple confidence of her assessment affected him deeply. Throughout his life, Naruto had defined himself through relationships and promises, the connections that anchored him through every transformation from outcast child to war hero. Ino's recognition of that continuity offered reassurance he hadn't realized he needed. "Thank you," he said softly, covering her hand with his own. The contact triggered a subtle reaction in his transformed physiology, his skin developing a gentle luminescence similar to what had happened with Hinata, but with a different harmonic pattern unique to Ino's chakra signature. Her eyes widened as she observed the phenomenon. "It's responding to interpersonal connection," she whispered, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding personal boundaries. "Your transformation has an emotional component, it resonates differently with different people." Before either could explore this discovery further, Hinata returned from her perimeter check, her Byakugan active as she scanned their surroundings. She paused momentarily upon seeing their connected hands and the subtle glow between them, her expression flickering with something complex before returning to professional focus. "The eastern approach is clear," she reported, deactivating her Kekkei Genkai as she joined them. No sign of surveillance technology within my visual range. Ino withdrew her hand smoothly, returning to her monitoring equipment with practiced professionalism. Neural patterns stable despite extended transformation periods. The integration continues to progress without signs of rejection or system conflict. The subtle shift from personal to professional interaction wasn't lost on Naruto, whose enhanced perception caught the micro-expressions both women carefully controlled. The complex emotional dynamics reminded him that despite his evolution, human connections remained as intricate and delicate as ever. Sasuke returned shortly after, materializing from the shadows with characteristic silence. There's movement to the northwest, a patrol using technology similar to what we encountered in Konoha, but more advanced. They're sweeping in a standard pattern that suggests routine surveillance rather than specific pursuit. Can we avoid them? Shikamaru asked, joining the group with tactical displays showing their planned route. Unnecessary, Sasuke replied. Their pattern will take them away from our approach vector within the hour. More concerning is what I found at the edge of my reconnaissance range. He activated a small holographic projector, displaying a three-dimensional image of what appeared to be a massive construction project. They're building something approximately 15 kilometers from the main facility, something that doesn't match any known divine circuit architecture. The hologram showed a structure that defied conventional design, geometric patterns that seemed to fold into themselves, creating spatial relationships that challenged normal perception. Parts of the structure appeared to exist in overlapping states, as though occupying multiple positions simultaneously. What is that? Ino whispered, the scientific part of her mind struggling to categorize what she was seeing. A dimensional anchor, Sasuke answered grimly. Similar to Kaguya's dimensional shifting technology, but adapted for mass deployment rather than personal transport. The implications settled heavily over the group. Divine Circuit wasn't just planning attacks on the 5 villages, they were preparing something far more ambitious, potentially involving travel between dimensional planes. This changes our approach, Shikamaru decided after analyzing the new information. We need to split objectives. The primary team continues toward the central facility to neutralize the immediate threat, while a secondary team investigates this construction project. I'll take the construction site, Sasuke volunteered immediately. My Rinnegan can analyze dimensional technologies more effectively than conventional observation. Shikamaru nodded in agreement. Take Hinata with you. Her Byakugan will complement your visual abilities and provide comprehensive surveillance of the site. The decision made tactical sense, pairing the two most powerful dojutsu users for a reconnaissance mission that depended on specialized visual abilities. Yet Naruto found himself unexpectedly resistant to the team configuration, a protective instinct surfacing that had nothing to do with mission parameters and everything to do with personal concern for Hinata's safety. Before he could voice any objection, Hinata spoke with quiet confidence. Understood. We'll gather intelligence on the structure and rendezvous with the primary team once you've secured the central facility. Her calm acceptance of the assignment demonstrated how far she had evolved from the shy girl who once doubted her abilities. Now a Jonin-level kunoichi with unparalleled visual reconnaissance skills, she met Sasuke's gaze as an equal partner in their assigned task. Maintain minimal communications protocol, Shikamaru instructed as he reconfigured their tactical plan. Signal convergence only at predetermined intervals unless emergency protocols are triggered. With the new strategy established, the team prepared for the final approach vector that would begin at dawn. As they settled into watch rotations, Naruto found himself troubled by competing priorities, the mission's crucial importance balanced against personal concerns that he couldn't entirely rationalize. During his watch period, he sat motionless at the camp's perimeter, his enhanced senses extending far beyond normal human range to monitor their surroundings. The integration had progressed to the point where he could detect electromagnetic fields, thermal variations, and subtle atmospheric changes that might indicate approaching threats. Hinata joined him silently, settling beside him with the fluid grace that characterized her movement. For several minutes, they sat in comfortable silence, her presence a calming influence on his accelerated thought processes. You're concerned about tomorrow's separation, she finally observed, her perceptiveness requiring no dojutsu to read his unspoken thoughts. Am I that obvious? He asked with a soft laugh. Only to those who know how to look, she replied with a gentle smile. Years of observing him first from afar, then as comrades, and now as something more complex had given her insights that others lacked. Your protective instincts haven't changed, even as everything else evolves. Naruto nodded, appreciating her understanding. It's not that I doubt your capabilities. I've seen you face pain, fight during the war. I know your strength. But something has changed in how you perceive potential threats. She completed his thought with intuitive precision. Your integration gives you awareness of dangers others might not recognize. Exactly. The relief of being understood without extensive explanation was profound. These aren't conventional enemies, Hinata. They're using technology that operates on principles even I'm still learning to comprehend. She considered this with thoughtful attention before responding. Perhaps that's precisely why Shikamaru's strategy is sound. Between Sasuke-kun's Rinnegan and my Byakugan, we have the best chance of perceiving threats across multiple visual spectrums. Meanwhile, your integration makes you uniquely qualified to neutralize the central facility's systems. Her logical assessment was irrefutable, demonstrating the tactical mind that complemented her gentle nature. Naruto found himself smiling at how effectively she had addressed his concerns without dismissing the emotions behind them. When did you become so wise? He asked softly. Around the same time you became so perceptive, she answered with quiet humor. We all evolve, Naruto-kun. Some changes are just more visible than others. The truth in her words resonated deeply. While his transformation manifested in dramatic physical alterations, Hinata's evolution had been equally profound, the shy, self-doubting girl becoming a confident, perceptive woman capable of facing any challenge with composed strength. Acting on impulse or perhaps responding to deeper awareness of momentary convergence, Naruto reached for her hand. As their fingers intertwined, the now familiar luminescence appeared at the contact points, chakra networks harmonizing in visible manifestation of their connection. That's beautiful, she whispered, activating her Byakugan to observe the phenomenon more completely. Your chakra recognizes mine somehow, creates a unique resonance pattern. It happens differently with different people, he admitted. Something in the integration responds to interpersonal connections unique for each individual. Understanding dawned in her eyes, not hurt, but clear recognition of what he was acknowledging. You've experienced this with Ino as well. It wasn't a question, but he nodded anyway, appreciating her perceptiveness. Different pattern, different resonance. I'm still learning what it means. Instead of the jealousy or possessiveness that might have characterized a simpler relationship, Hinata observed the phenomenon with genuine interest. The technology is adapting to your humanity, learning how connections work, how bonds form between people. That's extraordinary. Her acceptance, her ability to see the larger implications beyond personal emotions reminded Naruto why their connection had always been unique. Hinata's capacity for understanding transcended conventional boundaries, allowing her to appreciate complex truths without reducing them to simplistic categories. Be careful tomorrow, he said softly, squeezing her hand gently, and not just for my sake. I will, she promised, returning the pressure with equal gentleness. And you as well. Whatever is happening with this integration. It matters beyond just you or me or even Konoha. I think we're witnessing something that could change everything. The profound truth of her assessment hung between them as they maintained their vigilant watch, connected not just by intertwined fingers but by shared understanding of the momentous changes unfolding within and around them. Dawn arrived with the quiet efficiency that characterized elite shinobi operations. Camp was dismantled, equipment secured, and final strategy confirmed with minimal conversation. Years of working together had created synchronicity that required little verbal coordination, each member anticipating the needs and movements of the others with practiced precision. As the teams prepared to separate for their respective objectives, Naruto approached Sasuke with uncharacteristic formality. Watch out for her, he said quietly, no elaboration needed for who her referred to. Sasuke's mismatched eyes studied him with analytical intensity. Your integration has progressed further than you're acknowledging publicly, he observed instead of directly addressing the request. You're developing protective protocols specific to individual relationships. Naruto didn't bother denying it. Sasuke's visual prowess made him perhaps the only person who could fully perceive the subtle changes occurring beneath observable transformations. Is that a problem? It's an observation, Sasuke replied with characteristic neutrality. After a moment, he added, she doesn't need my protection. But yes, I'll watch out for her anyway. The acknowledgement, sparse as it was, satisfied something fundamental in Naruto's evolved awareness. As the teams departed in their separate directions, Sasuke and Hinata moving west toward the mysterious construction while Naruto, Shikamaru, and Ino continued north toward the central facility. He focused his attention on the primary mission with renewed clarity. The terrain grew increasingly mountainous as they approached their target, massive natural formations providing both cover for their advance and challenges for conventional movement. Rather than waste chakra on vertical traversal, they utilized specialized climbing equipment developed by Konoha's scientific division gear that left no energy signature detectable by Divine Circuit's surveillance technology. 3-kilometer perimeter ahead, Shikamaru announced as they reached a vantage point overlooking a secluded valley. Through specialized binoculars, they observed what appeared to be a modest research outpost, a deliberate camouflage concealing the vast underground complex revealed by their intelligence. Ino activated a compact sensor array, scanning for electronic and chakra-based security measures. Multiple overlapping detection grids. Conventional infiltration would trigger at least 7 different alarm systems. Then we don't go in conventionally, Naruto decided, stepping forward as his body began to transform. The changes were more fluid now, more integrated skin and muscle and bone reconfiguring with harmonious purpose rather than mechanical precision. Within moments, his appearance had altered completely. Rather than the metallic armor of combat transformation, he had adopted the exact appearance of a Divine Circuit security operative uniform, equipment, even subtle mannerisms replicated from their encounter in Konoha. Infiltration through impersonation, Shikamaru noted with approval. Can you maintain the transformation while moving? It's not a transformation technique, Naruto clarified. It's actual physiological reconfiguration. My cellular structure has temporarily adopted different properties, including chakra emission patterns that should match their personnel. Ino's monitoring device confirmed his assessment, displaying wavelength patterns consistent with the signatures they had recorded from captured operatives. Remarkable. Your body is actually producing the Sei energy signature our intelligence identified from their personnel. The infiltration proceeded with calculated precision. Naruto approached the facility's main entrance while Shikamaru and Ino established a concealed observation post within communication range. Security protocols were exactly as intelligence had suggested: biometric scans, chakra pattern verification, and encrypted access codes that Naruto's integrated technology processed and replicated flawlessly. Once inside, he maintained radio silence as planned, moving through the facility with the confident efficiency expected of security personnel. His enhanced senses mapped the complex as he proceeded, detecting personnel movements, security systems, and most importantly, the distinctive energy signature of the central command node they had come to neutralize. What intelligence reports hadn't prepared him for was the scale of the operation. The underground facility extended for kilometers in all directions, housing technology far beyond what the shinobi world had developed independently. Laboratories contained experiments that merged biological and mechanical systems. Training facilities prepared operatives with abilities that blurred the line between ninjutsu and scientific enhancement. Most disturbing were the development chambers where subjects, some willing, others clearly not, underwent procedures to integrate lesser versions of the technology that had merged with Naruto. Unlike his seamless integration, these attempts appeared forced, resulting in partial transformations that caused visible suffering. The deeper he penetrated into the facility, the more Naruto understood that Divine Circuit wasn't simply an organization with advanced technology, it was a movement, a philosophy that viewed conventional humanity as obsolete. Displays throughout the complex showed propaganda depicting transcendence through technological evolution and ascension beyond biological limitation. Following the strongest energy signature, he eventually reached a secured area requiring elevated clearance. Rather than risk detection by attempting to bypass conventional security, Naruto found an access panel and placed his transformed hand against it. The integration responded instinctively, interfacing with the system at a fundamental level that transcended program securities. The doors opened silently, revealing a massive chamber dominated by a central processing core, a column of energy extending from floor to ceiling, surrounded by workstations where technicians monitored complex systems. At the chamber's far end stood a figure who immediately drew Naruto's attention, a woman whose body had been extensively modified, technological components seamlessly integrated with biological systems in a way that suggested decades of progressive enhancement. She turned as Naruto entered, her eyes one natural, one a sophisticated optical implant narrowing slightly as she assessed him. Security personnel aren't authorized for this sector during pre-activation protocols, she stated, her voice carrying subtle electronic harmonics. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Rather than maintain the increasingly precarious disguise, Naruto allowed his transformation to revert not to his natural state, but to a combat-ready configuration that balanced defensive capabilities with offensive potential. "I think you know exactly who I am," he replied calmly. Instead of triggering alarms or calling for reinforcements, the woman smiled, an expression of genuine, if unsettling, delight. The integration subject. Perfect convergence achieved without laboratory intervention. She approached without apparent fear, scientific curiosity overriding normal caution. "You've exceeded all projected adaptation timelines." Fascinating. The technicians at surrounding workstations continued their duties without interruption, as though the confrontation were either expected or irrelevant to their assigned tasks. Only now did Naruto notice the vacant quality in their movements, the subtle indicators suggesting technological override of natural cognitive functions. "You're Dr. Amara Otsutsuki," Naruto stated, recognizing her from intelligence briefings, though her appearance had been significantly enhanced since those images were captured. Lead researcher of Divine Circuit and supposedly deceased former scientist of Konoha's Advanced Research Division. "Very good," she acknowledged with a slight nod, though the Otsutsuki name is honorary rather than hereditary, awarded to those who achieve significant advancement toward transcendence. She gestured around the chamber with proprietary pride. "All this exists because of pioneers willing to look beyond conventional limitations, beyond the artificial constraints of traditional shinobi society." Naruto maintained vigilant awareness of his surroundings while engaging her, sensing that this conversation served strategic purpose beyond mere delay. "You're planning coordinated attacks against the 5 hidden villages using chakra disruption technology. Why?" Such limited perspective, Amara sighed, circling him with analytical interest. "Those aren't attacks, they're catalysts. The disruption fields will temporarily neutralize conventional chakra techniques, creating the necessary conditions for mass integration to begin." She gestured toward the energy column. "This facility isn't a weapon, it's a broadcasting center. Once activated, it will transmit integration protocols to receivers planted throughout the continent." The implications crystallized in Naruto's enhanced cognition with chilling clarity. "You're planning to force technological integration on the entire population. Without consent, without preparation." "Evolution rarely requests permission," she countered with the casual confidence of absolute conviction. "Did the first amphibians consult their peers before crawling onto land? Did early humans hold committee meetings before developing complex language?" Her enhanced eye gleamed with zealous intensity. "Transcendence is inevitable, we're merely accelerating the timeline." As she spoke, Naruto's integrated systems were analyzing the central energy column, identifying its operational parameters, power distribution, and most importantly, vulnerabilities. The technology within him recognized the broadcasting system as compatible architecture, similar design principles adapted for different application. "And those who resist this forced evolution?" he asked, maintaining her attention while his systems continued their analysis. "Those whose bodies reject the integration. Necessary sacrifice for collective advancement," Amara replied without hesitation. "You've experienced the benefits firsthand. Your integration succeeds where others fail because your unique physiology, Uzumaki vitality, Jinchuriki adaptability, natural sage affinity provides optimal conditions. Others will have variable success rates, but the population-level benefits outweigh individual losses." The cold calculation in her assessment, the casual dismissal of potential suffering in service to ideological vision, clarified any moral ambiguity in the mission. This wasn't merely preventing an attack. It was stopping a forced transformation of humanity itself. "I can't allow that," Naruto stated simply, his transformed arm beginning to reconfigure into a specialized interface designed to disrupt the central column's operation. Amara's expression hardened, scientific curiosity replaced by tactical assessment. "Your integration grants you remarkable abilities, Uzumaki Naruto, but you're still a novice compared to those of us who have evolved over decades." She activated something within her modified body, and the chamber's environment changed instantly, energy fields manifesting around the central column while security protocols engaged throughout the facility. "Besides," she added as alarms began blaring, "did you really believe we would leave our central transmission node vulnerable to direct interference? Everything you see here is merely the public face of our operation. The actual transmission will originate from multiple redundant facilities simultaneously." The revelation triggered immediate reassessment in Naruto's strategic planning. If the central facility wasn't the true broadcast origin, then neutralizing it would only delay rather than prevent Divine Circuit's plan. he needed more information, specifically the locations of these redundant broadcast points. Without warning, Amara attacked not with conventional jutsu, but with integrated weapons that emerged from her modified body with devastating speed. Blades extended from her forearms while energy projectors materialized along her shoulders, targeting Naruto with precision that suggested combat-optimized enhancements. Naruto responded with fluid adaptation, his body transforming to counter each attack as it came. When energy beams struck his chest, his skin developed reflective properties that redirected the force harmlessly away. When blades threatened to penetrate his defenses, his cellular structure hardened to metallurgic density that shattered her weapons on contact. Impressive adaptation rate, Amara acknowledged, her attacks not ceasing despite their ineffectiveness. But adaptation requires exposure, and you haven't experienced everything we've developed. She activated a secondary system within her modified body, and the air between them shimmered with disruptive potential. When the field touched Naruto, he felt something unprecedented, a momentary disruption in the integration itself, as though the technology were being forced to reset its connection to his biological systems. The sensation was jarring but brief, his integration quickly adapting to counter the disruption by establishing new connection protocols. Yet the momentary vulnerability was enough for Amara to press her advantage, delivering a strike that penetrated his temporarily compromised defenses. Pain, sharp and clarifying, blossomed in his shoulder as a specialized probe embedded itself in his flesh. Before he could neutralize it, the device pulsed with invasive energy, attempting to override his integration with external commands. Direct system interface, Amara explained with clinical detachment. If we can't destroy your integration, we'll simply repurpose it. What she hadn't accounted for was the fundamental nature of Naruto's integration, not a technological overlay controlled by external protocols, but a true synthesis that responded to his consciousness as its primary authority. The invasive commands were rejected instantly, the foreign device identified as hostile and systematically neutralized by his evolved immune response. More significantly, the attempted override provided his integration with valuable data, the exact command architecture used by Divine Circuit to control their technology. His systems absorbed this information, processing and adapting it into countermeasures that could potentially disable their entire network. As the probe disintegrated within his healing flesh, Naruto's expression shifted from defensive determination to strategic confidence. "Thanks for the upgrade," he said, his transformed arm beginning to emit energy patterns identical to Amara's command protocols. Her enhanced eye widened with horrified realization. "System isolation. Full quarantine protocol," she shouted to the technicians, but her commands came too late. Naruto had already established connection with the central column, not to destroy it but to access the information it contained, specifically the coordinates of all redundant transmission facilities and the exact specifications of the integration protocol they planned to broadcast. As security forces converged on the chamber, Naruto initiated the next phase of his transformed capabilities. His body began emitting an electromagnetic pulse tuned specifically to Divine Circuit's technology, a disruptive wave that temporarily disabled their weapons, communications, and most importantly, the central column's active defenses. With the system momentarily vulnerable, he extracted the critical data and transmitted it directly to Ino and Shikamaru at their observation post. The mission parameters had changed. Neutralizing this facility alone wouldn't prevent the attack. They needed to coordinate simultaneous strikes against all transmission points within the rapidly shrinking timeline. "You've miscalculated," Amara declared, her systems rebooting after the targeted EMP. "Even with that information, you can't possibly neutralize all transmission nodes before activation. We've spent decades positioning our technology throughout the continent, hidden in plain sight within existing infrastructure, disguised as conventional communications equipment, embedded in commercial technology. The integration protocol will broadcast as scheduled." "Maybe," Naruto acknowledged, preparing for extraction as security forces surrounded the chamber. "But now we know exactly what we're fighting and how to counter it." Rather than engage in extended combat that would deplete resources needed for the expanded mission, Naruto initiated an emergency extraction protocol developed specifically for this contingency. His body transformed into an energy-conductive state that interfaced directly with the facility's power distribution system, essentially converting his physical form into transferable energy that followed the electrical pathways to the surface. The sensation was disorienting. Consciousness maintained while physical form temporarily transitioned to energy-based existence, but the integration handled the transformation with remarkable efficiency. Within seconds, he had traveled through the facility's power conduits to emerge at an external junction box beyond the security perimeter. As his body reconstituted into physical form, Naruto immediately sensed Ino and Shikamaru approaching his position with urgent purpose. Their expressions confirmed the gravity of the intelligence he had transmitted. Complex strategic calculations already forming in Shikamaru's analytical mind while Ino prepared long-range communication jutsu to coordinate with Konoha. 37 separate transmission nodes, Shikamaru summarized as they regrouped in a concealed position away from the facility. Distributed across all 5 nations and neutral territories. Simultaneous activation scheduled in 18 hours, significantly earlier than our original intelligence suggested. They accelerated the timeline when they detected our teams deploying to the hidden villages, Ino added, completing a complex sequence of hand signs to establish secure communication. We need to warn the other teams immediately. Naruto nodded in agreement, his systems still processing the vast amount of data extracted from Divine Circuit's central node. There's something else, something potentially more significant than the transmission network itself. He projected a holographic display from his transformed palm, showing complex schematics extracted from secured files within the system. They've been developing something called the Perfect Vessel, a specialized integration subject designed to host the most advanced version of the technology. Based on the data, they believe this vessel could achieve capabilities far beyond even accelerated integration like mine. A weapon? Shikamaru asked, studying the schematics with focused intensity. More like a conduit, Naruto clarified. The transmission nodes aren't just designed to broadcast integration protocols, they're meant to establish a network connecting all integrated subjects to this perfect vessel, creating what they call collective transcendence. Ino's eyes widened as she processed the implications. They're not just forcing physical transformation, they're attempting to create a hive mind connected through integrated technology. The strategy crystallized with urgent clarity. They needed to neutralize not just the transmission network, but also locate and secure this perfect vessel before Divine Circuit could implement the final phase of their plan. Given the distributed nature of the threat, they would need to coordinate with all deployed teams while requisiting additional support from the 5 hidden villages. As Ino established communication channels and Shikamaru developed expanded tactical parameters, Naruto found his thoughts turning to Sasuke and Hinata, investigating the mysterious construction site that now took on new significance in light of the intelligence he had gathered. The dimensional anchor, Sasuke observed, he realized aloud, drawing his teammates' attention. It's not just for transportation, it's designed to stabilize the network connection across dimensional boundaries. The perfect vessel must be housed there. Shikamaru immediately grasped the strategic implications, which means Sasuke and Hinata are likely walking into something far more significant than reconnaissance. We need to redirect our primary objective to that location. The communication jutsu activated, connecting them briefly with Konoha's command center where Kakashi received their updated intelligence with characteristic calm efficiency. Additional teams would deploy immediately to target the transmission nodes, while their strike team would converge on the dimensional anchor facility to neutralize the perfect vessel threat. As they prepared to move toward the new objective, Naruto became aware of subtle changes in his integration adaptations triggered by exposure to Divine Circuit's advanced systems. The technology within him had absorbed new capabilities, expanding his potential in ways he was still discovering. Most significantly, he could now detect the distinctive energy signature of the transmission protocols at much greater range than before, a network of subtle connections becoming visible to his enhanced perception like glowing threads stretching across the landscape. I can track the network, he informed his teammates, his eyes perceiving wavelengths beyond normal vision. The transmission nodes are linked through quantum entanglement, invisible to conventional sensors but detectable to my integrated systems. This newfound capability proved invaluable as they navigated toward the dimensional anchor facility. Instead of following direct routes that would trigger perimeter alerts, Naruto guided them along paths that intersected minimal network connections, essentially moving through blind spots in Divine Circuit's surveillance coverage. They had traveled approximately 8 kilometers when Naruto suddenly halted, his enhanced senses detecting an anomaly ahead. Something's wrong, he stated, his voice low with concern. There's a massive energy surge at the construction site, activation protocols that weren't scheduled for hours. Ino attempted to establish communication with Sasuke and Hinata but encountered only static interference. Their communication devices are offline or being actively jammed, she reported with growing alarm. They've been discovered, Shikamaru concluded grimly. Divine Circuit is accelerating their timeline in response to our infiltration. Without further discussion, they abandoned stealth protocols in favor of speed, moving toward the dimensional anchor facility with urgency that transcended normal caution. Naruto's transformation shifted to optimize for rapid movement, muscle density increasing, bone structure reinforcing to withstand the stress of superhuman velocity. As they crested a ridge overlooking the facility, the scale of the situation became immediately apparent. What Sasuke had observed as construction was now clearly in active operation, the dimensional anchor fully deployed and pulsing with energy that distorted the very fabric of reality around it. Security forces swarmed the perimeter while technicians made final adjustments to the massive structure. Most concerning was the absence of any sign of Sasuke or Hinata. No visual confirmation, no chakra signatures detectable even to Naruto's enhanced senses. They've either been captured or forced to retreat beyond sensor range, Shikamaru assessed, already calculating intervention strategies. Either way, our priority remains neutralizing that dimensional anchor before they can deploy the perfect vessel. Ino, monitoring Naruto's neural patterns through the specialized sensor, noted significant changes in his cognitive processing. Your integration is responding to the dimensional energy, adapting to its frequency. Can you interface with it like you did the central node? Not remotely, Naruto replied after brief internal consultation with his evolving systems. The anchor operates on principles beyond conventional technology. I would need direct physical contact with its core to establish effective interface. Shikamaru nodded, tactical mind already mapping approach vectors. Then that's our objective. Ino will provide sensory coverage and neural monitoring while I coordinate distraction protocols. Naruto, once we create an opening, you'll need to reach the core and neutralize it directly. The plan established, they separated to their assigned positions. Shikamaru deployed specialized shadow manipulation techniques developed specifically for technological interference shadows that could disrupt electronic systems rather than just physical targets. Ino established a sensory perimeter, extending her mind into the surrounding area to detect approaching threats while maintaining neural monitoring of Naruto's increasingly adaptive integration. Naruto, meanwhile, prepared for direct intervention. His body transformed into a combat configuration more complete than any he had previously manifested, armor-like plating covering vital areas while transformation mechanisms prepared for rapid adaptation to whatever defenses the facility might deploy. The assault began with precision coordination that reflected years of teamwork refined to instinctive synchronization. Shikamaru's shadow techniques disabled perimeter sensors in cascading sequence, creating the impression of systematic failure rather than deliberate attack. As security forces responded to the apparent malfunction, Ino deployed specialized genjutsu developed by Konoha's intelligence division techniques that affected technological systems as effectively as human perception. The combined disruption created the opening Naruto needed. Moving with speed that rendered him nearly invisible to conventional observation, he breached the facility's outer perimeter and advanced toward the dimensional anchor's core structure. Security forces responded with advanced weapons similar to those encountered in the central facility, but his evolving integration adapted to each threat with increasing efficiency. Energy weapons were absorbed and redirected. Physical barriers were penetrated or circumvented through targeted transformations. When specialized containment fields attempted to restrict his movement, his body developed counter-resonance frequencies that neutralized their effect. Yet as he approached the central chamber housing the dimensional anchor's core, Naruto encountered resistance beyond mere security measures. Standing before the massive doors leading to the core was a figure that triggered immediate recognition in his integrated systems, not through visual identification but through technological resonance. The figure appeared mostly human but with extensive modifications similar to Amara's, though implemented with greater sophistication and harmony. His presence projected an aura of authority that transcended conventional chakra, a field of influence that affected the very technology comprising the facility around him. The integration subject, the figure observed with clinical interest. Your adaptation rate exceeds all projected models. Fascinating. His voice carried the same subtle electronic harmonics as Amara's, but with greater refinement. I am Director Kagami Otsutsuki, Chief Architect of Divine Circuit. Your arrival was anticipated, though not quite this quickly. Naruto maintained combat readiness while assessing this new threat. His integrated systems detected similarities between Kagami's modifications and his own integration, the same fundamental technology adapted through different methodologies and extended evolution. "You're trying to force technological integration on the entire continent," Naruto stated, searching for vulnerabilities in the director's modified form. "Billions would die in the process." "A regrettable transition cost," Kagami acknowledged without apparent concern. "But necessary for species evolution. Conventional humanity has reached its developmental limit. Chakra manipulation, Kekkei Genkei, even-tailed beast symbiosis represent incremental adaptations within an obsolete biological framework." As he spoke, Naruto's enhanced perception detected subtle energy fluctuations behind the massive doors, patterns consistent with final activation sequences for major systems. Whatever the dimensional anchor was designed to accomplish, it was approaching operational status with concerning speed. "Where are my teammates?" Naruto demanded, referring not just to Shikamaru and Ino but specifically to Sasuke and Hinata, whose absence remained his greatest concern. A thin smile crossed Kagami's features. "The Uchiha proved remarkably resilient to our containment technologies. He escaped, though not without cost." The Hyuga, however, presented a unique opportunity. Her visual capabilities and chakra network offered valuable research parameters. The implication sent a surge of protective fury through Naruto's system, his integration responding to emotional intensity with accelerated adaptation. "If you've harmed her, science requires sacrifice," Kagami stated with dismissive finality. "Her genetic material has already contributed significantly to the perfect vessel's development. A more worthy purpose than conventional existence, wouldn't you agree?" The conversation ended as Naruto attacked with transformation speed that surprised even Kagami's enhanced reflexes. His arm reconfigured into a weapon specifically calibrated to the energy signature he detected from the director's modifications, a counter-frequency designed to disrupt rather than destroy. Kagami responded with equally advanced capabilities, his modified body deploying defensive systems that anticipated and adapted to Naruto's approach. The ensuing combat transcended conventional shinobi warfare, two technologically enhanced beings engaging with capabilities that operated on principles beyond traditional ninjutsu. Energy fields collided with disruptive force. Transformations adapted and counter-adapted in microsecond intervals. The very air around them became charged with competing frequencies as each attempted to gain advantage through superior integration. "Your emotional attachment remains your limitation," Kagami observed as they separated after a particularly intense exchange. "True transcendence requires liberation from biological imperatives, the evolutionary baggage of an obsolete existence." "That's where you're wrong," Naruto countered, his integration stabilizing into a new configuration informed by the combat data. "Those connections aren't limitations, they're what give the power meaning, purpose." His transformation responded to this conviction, systems reconfiguring with harmonic precision that reflected deeper integration between technology and humanity. Where divine circuit sought to replace human nature with technological efficiency, Naruto's evolution enhanced his humanity through technological synthesis, augmenting rather than replacing what made him who he was. This fundamental difference manifested in their combat approaches. Kagami fought with clinical precision, each move calculated for maximum effectiveness without consideration for collateral consequences. Naruto fought with strategic compassion, neutralizing threats while minimizing damage to surrounding systems and personnel, his power directed by values that transcended mere tactical advantage. As the battle intensified, the massive doors behind Kagami began to open, revealing the dimensional anchor's core chamber. Within, a massive crystalline structure pulsed with energy that distorted spatial relationships throughout the room. Suspended within this energy field was a humanoid form, not fully materialized but clearly taking shape as the system approached activation threshold. "The perfect vessel," Kagami announced with proprietary pride, gesturing toward the materializing form. "Designed with genetic material from optimal subjects, enhanced through decades of research, and prepared to host the most advanced integration protocol ever developed. When fully activated, it will serve as the nexus for all integrated subjects, the central consciousness guiding humanity's transcendence." Naruto's enhanced perception analyzed the developing vessel with growing concern. Its genetic composition contained familiar patterns, strands of DNA harvested from multiple sources, including, most disturbingly, traces of Hyuga genetic markers that confirmed Kagami's claim about Hinata's contribution. The implications were abhorrent, not just the violation of harvesting genetic material without consent, but the fundamental premise of creating an artificial entity designed to control the consciousness of integrated subjects. This wasn't evolution. It was enslavement disguised as advancement. "This ends now," Naruto stated with quiet resolution, his transformation shifting to its most advanced configuration yet. His entire body reconfigured at the cellular level, becoming a perfect synthesis of biological and technological systems united by conscious purpose rather than programmed directive. Kagami's expression reflected genuine alarm as he witnessed this unprecedented transformation. Impossible. Your integration should be limited by biological constraints the technology can't. Can't what? Naruto interrupted, advancing toward the core chamber with unstoppable purpose. Can't evolve beyond your understanding? Can't harmonize with human consciousness instead of replacing it? You've spent so long trying to transcend humanity that you've forgotten what makes it worth preserving. As he spoke, Naruto's transformed body began emitting counter-frequencies precisely calibrated to the dimensional anchor's operation, disrupting its energy field without destabilizing the spatial framework it had established. This calibrated approach prevented catastrophic collapse while systematically neutralizing its core functions. Kagami attacked with desperate intensity, deploying advanced weaponry integrated within his modified form. Energy beams capable of molecular disintegration, gravitational distortion fields, even temporal displacement pulses designed to separate Naruto from his sequential existence all met with adaptive countermeasures generated by his evolving integration. The battle reached its climax as Naruto penetrated the core chamber's defenses, establishing direct contact with the crystalline structure housing the developing perfect vessel. His integrated systems interfaced with the anchor's control mechanisms, overriding divine circuit's protocols with new directives shaped by his conscious intention. No! Kagami shouted, attempting to interrupt the interface but finding himself restrained by shadow tendrils. Shikamaru having finally penetrated the facility's outer defenses to join the confrontation. You don't understand what you're disrupting. The collective transcendence is humanity's only viable evolutionary path. Naruto maintained focus on the system override, his consciousness extending through the technological interface to address the emergent awareness within the perfect vessel itself. What he encountered wasn't the malevolent control mechanism Divine Circuit had intended, but something more complex, a nascent consciousness comprising fragments of all genetic contributors, confused and unformed but undeniably alive in some fundamental sense. This discovery presented an ethical dimension beyond simple neutralization. Destroying the vessel meant extinguishing this emerging awareness, an act at odds with Naruto's fundamental values despite the threat it represented. Yet allowing it to develop as designed would enable Divine Circuit's plans for forced integration and collective control. In that moment of connection, Naruto made a decision that reflected the true nature of his evolution, not just technological enhancement but ethical advancement. Rather than destroying the vessel, he rewrote its foundational protocols, removing the control mechanisms while preserving its autonomous development potential. The dimensional anchor responded to these changes with cascading recalibrations. Energy fields stabilized into sustainable patterns, spatial distortions resolved into natural alignment, and most importantly, the connection network designed to enable mass integration dissipated into harmless background radiation. As the system stabilized under new parameters, Naruto withdrew from the direct interface, his body returning to more conventional appearance while maintaining the enhanced capabilities developed through continued integration. The perfect vessel remained suspended in its crystalline housing, but now as an independent entity rather than a control mechanism, its future development a matter of its own emerging consciousness rather than Divine Circuit's programming. What have you done? Kagami demanded, struggling against Shikamaru's shadow restraint techniques. Decades of work, the culmination of our entire purpose. I gave it choice, Naruto answered simply. The same choice everyone deserves. Evolution without consent isn't advancement, it's subjugation. With Divine Circuit's central facility neutralized and the dimensional anchor repurposed, attention turned to the remaining transmission nodes scheduled for activation across the continent. Ino, having established communication with Konoha, reported that teams had been deployed to 32 of the 37 locations, a remarkable coordination effort but still potentially insufficient to prevent partial network activation. We need to broadcast a counteraction signal, Shikamaru concluded after analyzing the remaining timeline. Something that neutralizes the integration protocols before they can take effect. Naruto studied the reprogrammed anchor with thoughtful attention. We can use this. The dimensional anchor was designed to amplify and coordinate transmission across the entire network. If we invert the signal, broadcast a neutralization protocol instead of integration commands, we can disable their entire system simultaneously. Can you develop a counter protocol quickly enough? Ino asked, monitoring the facility's systems through specialized sensory techniques. I already have, Naruto replied, his integrated systems having extracted and adapted Divine Circuit's own technology during the interface. The same principle that allowed me to rewrite the perfect vessel's programming can be applied to the entire network. Implementation required precise calibration, adjusting the dimensional anchor's transmission parameters while developing a counter protocol that would neutralize rather than activate the integration technology. Shikamaru provided tactical oversight, identifying potential vulnerabilities in the approach, while Ino monitored Naruto's neural patterns to ensure the extended interface didn't compromise his own integration. As preparations neared completion, a familiar presence entered the facility: Sasuke, his clothing damaged and expression grim as he surveyed the secured area. "The perimeter is clear," he reported with characteristic economy. "Remaining Divine Circuit personnel have either surrendered or evacuated." "Hinata?" Naruto asked immediately, concern evident despite his focus on the counter-protocol implementation. "Alive," Sasuke confirmed, his tone suggesting complexity beyond that simple reassurance. "Being treated in a secured area we established outside. They experimented on her. Extracted biological samples for the perfect vessel project. She's stable but weakened." The news confirmed Naruto's worst fears while simultaneously providing the relief of knowing she had survived. His resolve to complete the counter-protocol gained additional urgency, not just neutralizing Divine Circuit's threat but ensuring such violations could never be repeated. With final calibrations complete, the dimensional anchor activated under new directives, broadcasting a signal that spread across the entire transmission network with instantaneous effect. Where Divine Circuit had intended to force technological integration upon an unwilling population, Naruto's counter-protocol instead neutralized their equipment while establishing protective barriers against similar attempts. Monitors throughout the facility confirmed cascading deactivations across all identified transmission nodes. Divine Circuit's plan for forced evolution had been neutralized not through destruction but through repurposing their own technology turned against its intended application in service to protection rather than control. As the counter-protocol completed its transmission, Naruto's attention turned immediately to Hinata's condition. Leaving Shikamaru and Ino to secure the facility and the captive director, he followed Sasuke to the makeshift medical area established outside the perimeter. Hinata lay on a field stretcher, her physical injuries treated but her chakra network showing signs of disruption visible even without Byakugan assistance. Despite her weakened state, she smiled when she saw him, a genuine expression that conveyed more than words could articulate. "You succeeded," she observed softly as he knelt beside her, not a question but a statement of confidence in his abilities. "We all did," he corrected, taking her hand gently. As their fingers intertwined, the familiar luminescence appeared, their chakra networks harmonizing despite the disruption hers had suffered. "I'm sorry they hurt you. That I wasn't there to." "Don't," she interrupted with gentle firmness. "We each had our mission, and I'm stronger than I look, remember?" The truth in her statement was undeniable. Despite what she had endured, her spirit remained unbroken, the quiet resilience that had always been her most remarkable quality shining through physical weakness with inspiring clarity. Naruto's integrated systems analyzed her condition with medical precision, identifying specific disruptions in her chakra pathways and developing potential treatments that could accelerate recovery. With her permission, he established a limited interface, his transformed hand gently placed over her heart as his integration provided stabilizing energy specifically calibrated to her unique chakra signature. The effect was immediately visible, color returning to her features as disrupted pathways realigned under the harmonizing influence. Not forced healing, but supported recovery, her own remarkable vitality enhanced rather than replaced by his technological assistance. "That feels amazing," she whispered, pearl-like eyes widening as she experienced the harmonization effect. "Like my chakra is remembering its proper flow." "It is," he confirmed with a gentle smile. "Your body knows how to heal, it just needs support after what they did to you." As the stabilization continued, Hinata studied him with perceptive attention. "You've changed again," she observed. "Your integration has evolved further." Naruto nodded, knowing she could perceive the differences more clearly than most. The dimensional anchor interface accelerated adaptation. "I had to evolve quickly to counteract their plans." "But you're still you," she stated with quiet certainty. "That's what they never understood about true evolution. It builds on what came before, it doesn't replace it." Her insight, profound in its simplicity, captured exactly what distinguished his integration from Divine Circuit's approach to technological advancement. Where they sought replacement, he had achieved synthesis technology, enhancing rather than supplanting the humanity that gave it purpose and direction. Rest now, he encouraged, maintaining the stabilizing connection. We've neutralized the immediate threat, but there's still much to be done. Indeed, as reports filtered in from teams deployed across the continent, it became clear that Divine Circuit's operation extended far beyond the facilities they had targeted. Decades of infiltration had embedded their technology and philosophy throughout society, not just in obvious research installations but in commercial products, communication systems, even medical equipment. Dismantling this extensive network would require coordinated effort across all 5 nations, identifying embedded technology, neutralizing integration protocols, and addressing the ideological influence that had spread through segments of the population. The counter protocol had prevented forced integration, but the philosophy of technological transcendence had already gained adherents who might continue pursuing similar goals. As Naruto reflected on these challenges, he became aware of Ino's approach, her purposeful stride suggesting important developments requiring his attention. The perfect vessel is stabilizing under the new protocols, she reported, professional demeanor maintained despite evident fascination with the phenomenon. It's developing autonomous consciousness separate from the control architecture, essentially becoming a person. The implications were profound, an entirely new form of existence emerging from Divine Circuit's misguided attempt at evolutionary control. The ethical and practical questions this development raised would require careful consideration beyond immediate tactical concerns. The 5 Kage are requesting an emergency summit, Ino continued. Kakashi-sama believes your perspective on the integration technology will be essential for developing appropriate responses to this threat, not just neutralizing Divine Circuit but establishing protocols for responsible development of similar capabilities in the future. Naruto nodded in acknowledgement, understanding that his unique position both as integration subject and as the person who had repurposed rather than destroyed the technology made him central to these discussions. The experience had transformed him not just physically but politically, establishing him as an authority on evolutionary technologies that transcended conventional power structures. As they prepared for extraction back to Konoha, Naruto maintained his connection with Hinata, whose condition continued to stabilize under his harmonizing influence. The mission had evolved far beyond its original parameters, revealing threats and possibilities that would shape the shinobi world for generations to come. Yet amid these monumental implications, he found his focus drawn to the immediate and personal, the well-being of those closest to him, the connections that gave purpose to power, and the fundamental values that had guided his decisions when faced with unprecedented capabilities and responsibilities. In that balance between world-changing potential and personal connection lay the true nature of his evolution, not transcendence beyond humanity, but deeper integration with its essential characteristics. Where Divine Circuit had sought ascension through abandonment of human limitations, Naruto had achieved advancement by embracing the very connections they dismissed as evolutionary baggage. As the extraction team arrived to transport them back to Konoha, Naruto glanced toward the facility where the dimensionally anchored perfect vessel continued its autonomous development, a reminder that even the most misguided technologies could be repurposed toward positive ends when guided by the right values. Whatever challenges awaited in the aftermath of Divine Circuit's neutralization, he would face them not as a technological transcendent but as a human being, enhanced rather than replaced by integration, his power given meaning through the connections that Divine Circuit had failed to recognize as humanity's greatest evolutionary advantage. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. Convergence Point. The Hokage's private conference chamber had never felt so crowded. 5 days after neutralizing Divine Circuit's primary facilities, representatives from all 5 great nations had converged on Konoha for an emergency summit addressing the technological threat that had nearly reshaped humanity without its consent. Naruto stood at a specialized display terminal, his integrated systems interfacing directly with the technology as he demonstrated the neutralization protocols developed during the mission. His appearance had stabilized into a new baseline, conventional human features with subtle indicators of his transformation visible only to those who knew what to look for. A faint iridescence beneath his skin when chakra flowed strongly, microscopic reconfiguration of cellular structures responding to environmental stimuli, enhanced sensory perception that registered in subtle shifts of attention and focus. The counter protocol establishes a protective barrier against forced integration, he explained, data patterns flowing across the display at his mental direction. Any technology designed to implement Divine Circuit's methods will be automatically neutralized upon activation. However, this protection isn't permanent. It requires periodic reinforcement through a network we've established using repurposed transmission nodes. Gaara of the Sand studied the display with thoughtful attention. And the maintenance of this protective network falls to Konoha exclusively? No, Kakashi responded from his position at the head of the conference table. That's precisely why we've called this summit. Protection of this magnitude requires cooperative maintenance, a joint initiative with shared responsibility and transparency. The Raikage leaned forward, muscular arms crossed over his broad chest. What prevents this counter-protocol from being weaponized itself? The technology that created this threat could potentially create others. It was a legitimate concern that cut to the heart of their dilemma. Divine Circuit's technology represented both unprecedented threat and extraordinary potential capabilities that could advance medical science, infrastructure development, and quality of life across nations if properly controlled and ethically implemented. The network operates on consensus protocols, Naruto explained, demonstrating security measures developed with Shikamaru's strategic oversight. No single nation or individual can unilaterally modify its operation. Additionally, the system is designed for transparency. All activities are logged and visible to authorized representatives from each participating nation. Chojuro of the Mist adjusted his glasses with thoughtful precision. And the individuals created through this technology? The perfect vessel your report mentioned, as well as the modified Divine Circuit members in custody? That's our most complex challenge, Kakashi acknowledged. The perfect vessel continues developing autonomous consciousness in a secured facility. Or more accurately, they represent an entirely new category of existence. Neither fully human nor purely technological, but a synthesis of both. Like Naruto, Kuretsuchi of the Stone observed, her direct gaze assessing him with undisguised interest, though achieved through different means. Similar technology, different implementation, Naruto clarified. My integration occurred through natural compatibility and voluntary acceptance. Theirs was programmed and directed toward specific outcomes. The discussion continued for hours, addressing immediate security concerns, long-term research implications, and ethical frameworks for managing technologies that blurred the boundary between human enhancement and fundamental transformation. Throughout, Naruto's perspective was repeatedly sought. His unique position as both diplomatic representative and living embodiment of the technology under discussion, giving his insights particular weight. When the formal session concluded for the day, participants dispersed to their assigned accommodations while core leadership remained for more confidential assessments. Tsunade, who had been observing from a position near the wall, approached Naruto with the clinical interest that characterized her medical perspective. Your integration continues to evolve, she noted without preamble. The neural monitoring data shows accelerated adaptation in response to extended interface with the counter protocol network. Naruto nodded, unsurprised by her observation. The technology learns from each new exposure, adapts to improve efficiency and capability. And you maintain conscious direction over these adaptations? Her question carried layers of significance beyond simple medical curiosity. Completely, he confirmed, understanding her concern. The integration responds to my conscious intent, not programmed directives. It enhances what I choose to be, rather than determining those choices. Tsunade's expression softened slightly. Good. Because you've become something unprecedented, Naruto, not just politically or militarily, but existentially. How you navigate this evolution will establish precedents for those who might follow similar paths. Her assessment was accurate if understated. Beyond the immediate Divine Circuit threat lay broader questions about humanity's relationship with technological enhancement, questions for which Naruto had become a living case study observed with intense interest across nations. After completing essential debriefings, Naruto left the administrative complex, his enhanced senses appreciating the familiar rhythms of Konoha at evening, civilians returning home from work, shinobi changing guard rotations, the subtle shift in atmospheric composition as cooking fires were lit throughout residential districts. His integration had enhanced his connection to these environmental patterns, not diminished it as Divine Circuit might have predicted. His path took him toward Konoha Hospital, where Hinata continued recovering from her ordeal at Divine Circuit's facility. Though her physical injuries had mostly healed, her chakra network still showed signs of disruption that required specialized treatment under Sakura's supervision. Their extraction and manipulation of her genetic material had left subtle damage beyond conventional medical intervention. As he entered the medical complex, Naruto sensed Ino's presence before seeing her distinctive chakra signature now registered in his awareness with the same clarity as visual or auditory perception. She emerged from a treatment room, clinical clipboard in hand and professional focus evident in her expression until she noticed him. Perfect timing, she greeted him, professional demeanor warming with personal recognition. I was just finishing Hinata's latest neural assessment. The stabilization techniques are working, but more slowly than we'd hoped. Naruto nodded, having monitored Hinata's recovery closely despite his diplomatic obligations. The counter-harmonics they used to extract her genetic material were specifically designed to disrupt Byakugan-related chakra pathways. Precision damage requiring precision treatment. Exactly, Ino confirmed, impressed by his technical understanding. Which is why I wanted to discuss a potential treatment option with you. She glanced around the busy corridor before continuing in a lower voice. Your integration demonstrated remarkable harmonization capabilities during the initial stabilization. There's reason to believe a more extensive application of that technique could accelerate her recovery significantly. The suggestion carried both promise and complication. The harmonization effect Naruto had initiated in the field had indeed shown remarkable effectiveness, but it had been an intuitive response rather than a structured medical procedure. Expanding that approach would require deeper understanding of both his capabilities and the precise nature of Hinata's injuries. I'd need to interface with her chakra network more comprehensively, he noted, considering the implications. That level of connection is intimate. Ino nodded, professional assessment balanced with personal awareness. Which is why I wanted to discuss it with you first, before proposing it as a formal treatment option. It would require sustained connection over multiple sessions, with me monitoring neural patterns throughout to ensure proper integration without dependency effects. The procedure she outlined was medically sound but emotionally complex, a therapeutic relationship that would necessarily develop beyond clinical parameters given the personal nature of chakra harmonization. Yet if it could accelerate Hinata's recovery and prevent long-term damage to her Kekkei Genkai, the benefits clearly outweighed potential awkwardness. If Hinata agrees, I'm willing, Naruto decided. But it needs to be her choice, with full understanding of what the process involves. Ino smiled, appreciation for his ethical clarity evident in her expression. Of course. I wouldn't propose it otherwise. She gestured toward Hinata's room. She's awake if you want to discuss it with her now. I can return in 30 minutes to answer any medical questions that arise. As Ino departed to continue her rounds, Naruto approached Hinata's room with thoughts both medical and personal. Their relationship had always defied simple categorization, deeper than friendship, more complex than romance, founded on mutual respect and understanding that transcended conventional definitions. The proposed treatment would necessarily deepen that connection in ways neither could fully anticipate. He found Hinata sitting beside the window, pearl-like eyes watching the sunset paint Konoha's rooftops with golden light. Though hospital protocol had her dressed in standard patient attire, she had added her own personal touch with a lavender scarf draped across her shoulders, a gift from her sister that provided comfort beyond its physical warmth. She turned as he entered, her smile genuine despite the visible fatigue around her eyes. Naruto-kun. I thought you'd be occupied with the summit all evening. Some things are more important, he replied, settling into the chair beside her bed. How are you feeling today? Better, she answered with characteristic optimism that couldn't entirely mask underlying reality. Sakura-san says the disruption is stabilizing, though full recovery will take time. Naruto nodded, his enhanced perception detecting the subtle irregularities in her chakra flow, beautiful patterns interrupted by dissonant frequencies where divine circuits extraction had damaged natural pathways. Ino mentioned a potential treatment approach that might accelerate your recovery. As he explained the harmonization technique and its implications, Hinata listened with thoughtful attention, her intelligence assessing both medical benefits and personal dimensions with equal clarity. When he finished, she remained silent for a moment, contemplating the proposal with characteristic thoroughness. The connection would be deeper than what you initiated in the field, she noted, understanding the implications perfectly. Our chakra networks would essentially synchronize during treatment. Yes, he confirmed, appreciating her immediate grasp of the technical aspects. My integration would provide stabilizing frequencies specifically calibrated to your disruption patterns, essentially reminding your pathways of their natural flow. Hinata considered this with the quiet confidence that had replaced her youthful shyness, and Ino would monitor throughout. To ensure the connection remains therapeutic and doesn't create dependency, Naruto explained. Her mind techniques make her uniquely qualified to observe chakra neural interactions. Another moment of thoughtful silence followed before Hinata met his gaze directly. I trust you, Naruto-kun. If you believe this approach could help, I'm willing to try. The simplicity of her statement carried profound significance, trust earned through years of mutual respect and shared challenges. It wasn't blind faith but reasoned confidence based on demonstrated character and capability. Thank you, he replied, the words inadequate for the feeling they attempted to convey. We'll start whenever you're ready, with Ino's supervision to ensure everything proceeds safely. Their conversation shifted to updates on the summit proceedings, Hinata's poetical acumen providing valuable perspective on the international implications of divine circuits neutralization. Despite her hospital confinement, she remained informed through regular briefings from both medical staff and Hyuga clan representatives attending peripheral summit events. When Ino returned to discuss treatment logistics, she found them engaged in thoughtful analysis of diplomatic dynamics. Hinata's insights on inter-clan politics complementing Naruto's first-hand observations of cage-level negotiations. The seamless way they built upon each other's perspectives spoke to intellectual compatibility that extended far beyond emotional connection. I see why you work so well together, Ino observed with professional appreciation as she reviewed Hinata's latest neural scans. Complementary analytical frameworks with shared foundational values. Her assessment, though clinical in delivery, captured an essential truth about their relationship that transcended conventional categories. Where others saw the war hero and the Hyuga princess, Ino recognized the deeper pattern: two intellects approaching complex problems from different perspectives but arriving at harmonious conclusions through shared principles. Treatment arrangements were established with medical precision, 3 sessions weekly under controlled conditions, with comprehensive monitoring throughout to document both effectiveness and any unexpected developments. The first session would begin the following morning, allowing time for final preparatory scans and baseline establishment. As visiting hours concluded, Naruto prepared to leave with a promise to return for the initial treatment. The comfortable ease of their parting, neither dramatic nor casual, but balanced in mutual understanding, reflected the maturity of a connection that had evolved beyond youthful intensity without losing its fundamental significance. Outside the hospital, Naruto found Sasuke waiting in the shadows of a nearby rooftop, his preferred observation point when security concerns required vigilance without obvious presence. Though officially participating in the summit as Konoha's elite security specialist, Sasuke's true focus remained the broader implications of divine circuits technology and philosophy. They've begun activating sleeper cells, he stated without preamble as Naruto joined him on the rooftop. Not for direct conflict, but for information gathering and technology retrieval. My sources identified 3 separate extraction teams targeting abandoned divine circuit facilities within Fire Country borders. This intelligence, though concerning, wasn't unexpected. Despite neutralizing their primary operation, they had always anticipated that divine circuit's distributed structure would allow elements to survive and potentially regroup. The organization's decades-long development had created deep roots throughout society that couldn't be eliminated in a single operation. Targeting specific technology? Naruto asked, immediately assessing strategic implications. Integration components primarily, Sasuke confirmed. Particularly those related to the Perfect Vessel project. They appear to be attempting reconstruction of key systems, though on a much smaller scale than before. The purpose seemed clear enough. Having lost their primary facilities and leadership, remaining divine circuit elements were attempting to preserve core technologies for future deployment. A logical contingency strategy, but one that required immediate counter-response. We need to secure those abandoned facilities, Naruto decided, already calculating resource requirements and deployment options. Not just guard them, completely extract any remaining technology for secured research. Sasuke nodded in agreement, having reached the same conclusion. I've already identified primary targets based on intelligence patterns. 5 facilities within Fire Country borders, 2 in Wind Country, and 1 in Lightning that show signs of recent surveillance or approach. Their strategic planning continued with practiced efficiency. Years of partnership, sometimes as allies, sometimes as rivals, having established deep understanding of each other's capabilities and thought processes. By midnight, they had developed a comprehensive security response that Sasuke would present to Kakashi for immediate implementation. As they concluded their planning session, Sasuke observed Naruto with analytical precision. Your integration continues adapting to diplomatic functions. Interesting priority evolution. The observation, though cryptic to most, made perfect sense to Naruto. His integrated systems had indeed been optimizing for diplomatic and strategic applications rather than combat capabilities, enhancing information processing, language analysis, and pattern recognition related to interpersonal and political dynamics. The most immediate challenges are diplomatic, not combative, Naruto acknowledged. My systems are adapting to current priorities rather than potential threats. Sasuke's expression suggested he found this development significant beyond mere tactical assessment. Your integration responds to chosen purpose rather than programmed function. That fundamental difference from Divine Circuit's approach may ultimately prove more important than any specific capability. With that philosophical observation, Sasuke departed to implement their security strategy, leaving Naruto to contemplate the deeper implications of his evolving transformation. Where Divine Circuit had sought to program purpose through technological integration, his experience demonstrated the opposite paradigm, technology adapting to support existing purpose rather than imposing new directives. The following morning brought renewed summit negotiations alongside Hinata's first scheduled treatment session. Naruto participated in early diplomatic discussions regarding international research protocols before excusing himself for the medical appointment, a prioritization that raised eyebrows among some foreign representatives but received understanding nods from those who recognized his personal connection to the injured Hyuga. At the hospital's specialized treatment center, Ino had prepared a room specifically designed for chakra neural therapies. Equipment developed by Konoha's Medical Research Division monitored subtle energy patterns while providing detailed analytics of interaction effects. Specialized seals reinforced the room's privacy while preventing external chakra interference that might disrupt delicate therapeutic processes. Hinata was already positioned on the primary treatment platform when Naruto arrived, dressed in specialized medical attire designed to facilitate chakra flow without unnecessary barriers. Ino greeted him with professional focus, her clipboard containing baseline measurements established through morning examinations. We've mapped the specific disruption patterns in detail, she explained, displaying comprehensive chakra network schematics. The damage concentrates in cervical and cardiac pathways, precisely where Divine Circuit extracted genetic material keyed to Byakugan activation sequences. Naruto studied the schematics with enhanced perception, his integrated systems analyzing the disruption patterns with medical precision. The extraction was specifically targeted to obtain Kekkei Genkei activation sequences without triggering defensive responses. Sophisticated approach requiring intimate knowledge of Hyuga physiology. Exactly, Ino confirmed, impressed by his technical assessment, which suggests inside information possibly from someone with prior access to Hyuga medical records. The security implications were concerning but secondary to the immediate treatment priority. After reviewing procedural protocols and establishing monitoring parameters, they began the therapeutic session with Ino overseeing both medical and security aspects. Naruto sat beside Hinata on the treatment platform, their positions allowing optimal chakra alignment while maintaining appropriate clinical boundaries. With Ino's guidance, he interface his right hand placed over Hinata's heart center while his left established contact at the base of her skull where primary chakra pathways converge. The connection formed with remarkable ease, their natural chakra compatibility enhanced by his integration's adaptive capabilities. As the harmonization developed, Naruto's transformed physiology began emitting precisely calibrated frequencies that resonated with Hinata's disrupted pathways, essentially providing the energetic template for natural healing processes. For Hinata, the sensation transcended conventional medical treatment. Where previous therapies had felt like external manipulation of damaged systems, this connection created internal remembrance, her own chakra network recognizing its natural patterns through resonance with Naruto's harmonizing influence. It's like, my body is remembering itself, she whispered, pearl-like eyes widening as disrupted pathways began realigning with their natural flow. Not being repaired, but reminded. Ino monitored the process with fascinated attention, her specialized sensors tracking the remarkable efficiency of the harmonization effect. The disrupted pathways are responding at nearly triple the rate of conventional therapy. Neural synchronization is establishing self-sustaining repair patterns that continue even between direct contact periods. The session continued for 45 minutes, the optimal duration established through preliminary research to prevent system dependency or harmonic fatigue. Throughout, Naruto maintained precise control over his integration, ensuring the connection remained therapeutic rather than transformative. Unlike Divine Circuit's invasive modifications, his approach supported natural healing processes without imposing external patterns. When they completed the session, Hinata's chakra network showed measurable improvement, disrupted pathways beginning to re-establish natural flow patterns while damaged receptors showed signs of accelerated regeneration. Most significantly, her Byakugan activation sequences demonstrated increased stability, suggesting the treatment was specifically addressing the Kekkei-Genkai disruption that had been Divine Circuit's primary target. Remarkable results for an initial session, Ino concluded as she reviewed the comprehensive data. If this progression continues, we could see complete recovery within weeks rather than months. The medical success was undeniable, but equally significant was the experience itself, a connection that transcended clinical parameters without compromising therapeutic purpose. Though professionally monitored and medically structured, the harmonization created a form of intimacy beyond physical proximity, chakra networks communicating at levels that defied conventional categorization. As they concluded the session and Hinata rested from the intensive treatment, Ino took Naruto aside to discuss both medical implications and personal dimensions. The harmonization effect exceeds our highest projections, she noted, reviewing correlation data with scientific precision. But it also creates connection beyond mere treatment modality. I'm monitoring for therapeutic boundaries from medical perspective, but you should both be aware of the potential emotional implications. Naruto appreciated her directness, the balanced perspective of both medical professional and perceptive friend. We'll navigate those dimensions carefully. The treatment priority is clear for both of us. Ino nodded, professional concerns addressed while personal understanding remained implicit in her expression. The next session is scheduled for 3 days from now. That interval allows optimal integration of today's treatment effects while preventing degradation of established patterns. With treatment protocols established and initial results documented, Naruto returned to the summit proceedings where international discussions had progressed to implementation strategies for the protective network. The Case Cage had proposed hosting one of the primary monitoring nodes in Suna, a strategically sound location given the village's central continental position and stable political environment. As discussions advanced toward specific technical requirements, Naruto found his expertise increasingly central to diplomatic negotiations. His unique position both as integration subject and as architect of the counter protocol made him the natural authority on implementation requirements and security parameters. The demand for his attention extended beyond formal summit sessions. Between official negotiations, representatives from various nations sought private consultations regarding technology assessment, security implications, and potential applications beyond mere defensive protocols. His schedule filled with diplomatic commitments that stretched from early morning through late evening, leaving minimal time for personal recovery or reflection. 3 days after the initial treatment session, Naruto returned to the hospital with barely 15 minutes to spare before the scheduled appointment. He had come directly from a specialized briefing with Earth Country's scientific delegation, his formal attire contrasting with the clinical environment of the medical facility. Ino met him at the treatment room entrance, clipboard in hand and expression suggesting both professional focus and personal concern. "You look exhausted," she observed without preamble. "Summit demands exceeding sustainable levels?" "I'm fine," he assured her, though his enhanced physiology confirmed her assessment cellular energy reserves depleted from sustained mental exertion without adequate recovery periods. The integration compensates for physical fatigue. At biological cost, she countered with medical authority. Accelerated cellular regeneration depletes resources that require replenishment through normal recovery cycles. Even your enhanced systems have limitations, Naruto. Her concern was legitimate from both medical and personal perspectives. Though his integration provided remarkable endurance beyond normal human limitations, it operated according to biological principles that couldn't be indefinitely circumvented. Extended operation without recovery would eventually create cumulative effects that even his enhanced regeneration couldn't fully mitigate. "I'll schedule proper rest periods after today's summit sessions conclude," he promised, recognizing the wisdom in her assessment. The current intensity is temporary while foundation protocols are established. Ino's expression suggested skepticism regarding his time management claims, but she nodded professional acceptance of his commitment. "Today's treatment may actually help address your fatigue as well." The harmonization effect works bidirectionally, stabilizing both participants through resonance balancing. This observation aligned with Naruto's experience during the first session, though he had attributed the rejuvenating effect to normal treatment satisfaction rather than direct physiological benefit. The possibility that the therapeutic connection might benefit both participants added interesting dimension to their established protocol. Inside the treatment room, Hinata waited with calm readiness, her appearance noticeably improved from 3 days earlier. Color had returned to her complexion, and her posture demonstrated increased vitality despite remaining medical concerns. When she noticed Naruto's formal attire, understanding immediately filled her expression. The Tsuchikage's scientific delegation, she stated rather than asked, her political awareness allowing her to track summit proceedings despite her hospital confinement. Their concerns about technological transparency would naturally require your direct involvement. Her accurate assessment identifying not just his activity but the specific diplomatic context demonstrated why Hinata's political insights were valued even among Konoha's senior advisors. Despite her quiet demeanor, her analytical understanding of inter-village politics often exceeded that of more vocal strategists. 3 hours of technical specifications and security assurances, Naruto confirmed with an appreciative smile for her perception. Worth the effort if it secures their participation in the protective network. As they prepared for the treatment session, Hinata observed him with the same perceptiveness she brought to political assessment. You're maintaining too many concurrent responsibilities without adequate recovery intervals. The observation, delivered without accusation or demand, carried the simple clarity that characterized her communication style. Not criticism, but accurate assessment offered from genuine concern rather than judgment. A temporary necessity while critical foundations are established, he explained as they positioned themselves on the treatment platform. Once the basic protocols are implemented, delegation will become more viable. Hinata's expression suggested she recognized the pattern from previous situations, his tendency to assume essential responsibilities personally before establishing systems that allowed appropriate distribution of effort. It was both strength and limitation, ensuring quality implementation while potentially creating unsustainable demand on personal resources. Just remember that your effectiveness serves no one if it comes at cost of your well-being, she reminded him gently as Ino completed preliminary scans and prepared to begin the session. The harmonization established more quickly than during their first treatment, chakra networks recognizing compatible patterns and establishing resonance with minimal conscious direction. As the connection deepened, Naruto's integration adapted to Hinata's specific disruption patterns with increasing precision, providing exactly the frequencies needed for optimal healing response. What neither had fully anticipated was the bidirectional nature of the harmony Ino had mentioned. As Naruto's integration supported Hinata's healing process, her natural chakra flow provided balancing effect for his depleted systems, a complementary resonance that addressed different needs through shared connection. Fascinating mutual benefit pattern, Ino observed, monitoring comprehensive data with scientific interest. Your systems are essentially optimizing resource distribution across the connection, supporting her healing while balancing your depletion. The phenomenon demonstrated principles beyond conventional medical understanding, chakra networks communicating at fundamental levels to address respective needs without conscious direction. Where traditional medical jutsu imposed external corrections on damaged systems, this harmonization created balanced exchange that supported natural function according to each participant's specific requirements. For Naruto, the effect manifested as profound restoration, depleted cellular reserves replenishing through harmonized chakra exchange that bypassed normal recovery limitations. For Hinata, the connection accelerated healing processes beyond even their first session's impressive results, disrupted pathways realigning with natural precision guided by her body's intrinsic intelligence rather than external direction. The Byakugan activation sequences are stabilizing at remarkable rate, Ino noted with professional excitement as she reviewed real-time data. Neural pathways are re-establishing optimal connection patterns according to her genetic blueprint rather than standardized medical templates. This personalized healing represented significant advancement beyond conventional treatments, which necessarily applied generalized protocols that approximated rather than perfectly matched individual genetic specifications. Through harmonized connection, Hinata's systems were essentially remembering their precise natural patterns, guided by genetic memory rather than external correction. As the session progressed beyond the initial 45-minute protocol, Ino monitored for potential adverse effects but found only increasing benefits with continued connection. All indicators suggest extending today's session would provide additional therapeutic advantage without dependency risk, she advised, presenting the data for their consideration. I recommend continuing to 90-minute duration if you both feel comfortable with extension. The suggestion made medical sense given the remarkable effectiveness demonstrated, though it would require sustained concentration beyond their established protocol. After brief consideration of summit scheduling implications, Naruto agreed to the extension, with Hinata concurring based on the clear benefits observed. The extended session created deeper harmonization than either had previously experienced, chakra networks synchronizing at fundamental levels that transcended conscious awareness. For Naruto, whose integrated systems provided enhanced perception of energetic patterns, the experience revealed dimensions of connection normally invisible to conventional observation. He could perceive not just the physical aspects of Hinata's healing, cellular regeneration, neural reconnection, pathway restoration, but the emotional and spiritual dimensions normally hidden beneath physiological processes. The courage that sustained her through adversity, the compassion that guided her interactions with others, the quiet determination that had transformed the shy girl into the confident woman before him, all visible through harmonic resonance that transcended conventional perception. Similarly, though without his technologically enhanced awareness, Hinata experienced dimensions of Naruto's being normally concealed beneath his public persona. The profound sense of responsibility that drove his relentless service, the genuine compassion that humanized his growing power, the fundamental decency that had remained constant despite extraordinary evolution, all communicated through resonance beyond words or conscious expression. When they finally concluded the extended session, both emerged with perception altered by the experience, not dramatically transformed, but subtly expanded through shared awareness that transcended normal interpersonal boundaries. The harmonization had created temporary bridge between separate consciousnesses, allowing glimpses across the division that normally separates individual experience. Remarkable results, Ino concluded as she reviewed comprehensive data from the session. Hinata's recovery has accelerated beyond best-case projections, while your cellular depletion has normalized to sustainable levels. The mutual benefit pattern suggests significant therapeutic potential beyond your specific application. Her assessment highlighted implications extending far beyond their individual treatment possibilities for new healing methodologies based on harmonized connection rather than imposed correction. While Naruto's integration made him uniquely capable of establishing such connections, the principles demonstrated might be adaptable to conventional medical applications through appropriate research and development. As they concluded the session and reviewed scheduling for their next appointment, Naruto became aware of an approaching chakra signature. He recognized immediately Temari of the Sand, accompanying her brother Gaara for the summit but pursuing separate diplomatic objectives focused on scientific cooperation rather than political alliance. Her presence at the medical facility suggested either personal medical concerns or, more likely, professional interest in treatment methodologies being developed by Konoha's research division. Sure enough, as they exited the treatment room, they encountered Temari in conversation with Sakura near the department's administrative center. The Sand Kunoichi looked up at their approach, her analytical gaze immediately assessing the treatment context with the strategic perception that had made her Suna's premier diplomatic strategist. Uzumaki, she greeted with characteristic directness, her formal address belying the respect developed through years of inter-village coordination. I was hoping to consult you regarding integration containment protocols being discussed in tomorrow's technical session. Though framed as casual request, the timing suggested deliberate intercepting rather than coincidental meeting, a diplomatic approach seeking private consultation outside official channels. Such tactics were common in international negotiations when specific expertise was required for technical assessment beyond political positioning. Of course, Naruto replied, recognizing both the stated request and unstated purpose. I should be available after concluding this afternoon's formal sessions. Temari nodded appreciation for his understanding without requiring explicit acknowledgement of her tactical approach. Her attention shifted to Hinata with genuine respect, acknowledging both her political significance as Hyuga representative and her personal capability as a lead kunoichi. Hyuga-san, I was concerned to hear of your injury during the Divine Circuit operation. Your recovery progress is encouraging. Thank you, Temari-san. Hinata replied with the balanced formality appropriate to their respective positions. The medical collaboration between our villages has contributed significantly to treatment advancements, including those benefiting my recovery. The reference to inter-village medical cooperation wasn't mere pleasantry but subtle political reinforcement, acknowledging Suna's contributions to therapeutic techniques being utilized in Konoha's advanced treatments. Such diplomatic awareness in seemingly casual conversation demonstrated why Hinata's political acumen was increasingly valued in inter-village negotiations despite her relative youth. After confirming consultation arrangements with Temari and completing necessary documentation for the treatment session, Naruto returned to the summit proceedings with renewed energy from the harmonization benefits. The afternoon sessions focused on implementation timelines for the protective network, establishing deployment priorities based on population concentration and vulnerable infrastructure. As diplomatic discussions continued into early evening, Naruto found his thoughts periodically returning to the treatment experience, not just its medical effectiveness but the profound connection it had established. The glimpses beyond conventional perception had revealed dimensions of Hinata's being that transcended their existing relationship, deepening his appreciation for qualities often concealed beneath her quiet exterior. When formal sessions concluded, he met Tamari as arranged in a small conference room designated for technical consultations. The Sand Kunoichi had prepared comprehensive documentation regarding Suna's proposed containment protocols, specialized barrier techniques designed to isolate recovered divine circuit technology from potential external activation or interference. Our research division has developed containment fields specifically calibrated to integration frequencies, she explained, displaying technical specifications with practiced efficiency. But without direct exposure to activated technology, we can't verify effective isolation across all potential activation wavelengths. The consultation request now made perfect sense. Suna needed verification from someone with direct experience of integration technology to assess containment effectiveness. Given Naruto's unique position as controlled integration subject, his assessment carried weight beyond conventional technical expertise. The primary isolation parameters are correctly calibrated, he confirmed after studying their specifications with his enhanced perception. But their secondary resonance pattern, your containment fields, don't address subtle harmonic frequencies that could potentially bypass primary isolation. He modified their display to illustrate the overlooked harmonic patterns, subtle energy signatures that might seem insignificant to conventional analysis but represented potential vulnerability in containment protocols. Tamari absorbed this information with the focused attention of a skilled strategist recognizing crucial tactical information. Could you help us develop appropriate counter-harmonics? She asked, professional demeanor maintained despite the significant implication of the vulnerability he had identified. Our research division has authority to establish direct collaboration outside formal summit parameters if necessary for security implementation. The request represented significant technical partnership beyond political agreement, potential collaboration that would necessarily involve sharing specialized knowledge developed through his unique integration experience. Such cooperation aligned with broader alliance objectives while providing valuable security enhancement for all participating nations. I'll need to consult with Kakashi-sama regarding knowledge-sharing protocols, Naruto replied, acknowledging both the value of her request and necessary diplomatic considerations. But preliminary assessment suggests mutual benefit from collaborative development. Tamari nodded appreciation for his balanced response, neither rejecting legitimate security concerns nor bypassing appropriate authority channels. Gaara anticipated your position and has already discussed preliminary framework with your Hokage. I'm authorized to establish technical parameters if you confirm collaboration viability. This revelation demonstrated effective diplomatic coordination between Sand siblings, Gaara addressing political dimensions through official channels while Tamari pursued technical implementation through specialized consultation. Their complementary approach reflected the governance style that had made Suna increasingly influential in international relations despite more limited resources than larger villages. The technical consultation extended longer than either had anticipated, their shared strategic focus and complementary expertise creating productive exchange that transcended scheduled parameters. As they explored potential implementation approaches, Temari's analytical precision complemented Naruto's integration-enhanced perception, creating solutions neither could have developed independently. Your technical understanding has evolved considerably since our previous collaborations, Tamari observed as they concluded their session well into evening hours. Integration effects extend beyond physical capabilities to cognitive processing. Her assessment was accurate if understated. The integration had indeed enhanced his analytical capabilities, not replacing his natural intelligence but optimizing cognitive functions in ways that allowed more efficient processing of complex information patterns. Where he had once relied primarily on intuitive understanding and practical application, he now accessed multidimensional analysis capabilities that complemented his experiential knowledge. The technology adapts to prioritize capabilities relevant to current challenges, he explained, recognizing her observation as professional assessment rather than personal inquiry. With diplomatic and technical concerns predominant, cognitive enhancement has accelerated accordingly. Tamari considered this with strategic interest. Adaptive prioritization responding to conscious focus rather than programmed objectives. Fundamentally different approach than Divine Circuit's deterministic model. Her expression suggested appreciation for implications beyond immediate application. That distinction may ultimately prove more significant than any specific capability enhancement. Her insight echoed Sasuke's earlier observation, recognizing that the nature of integration mattered more than particular abilities it provided. The fundamental difference between enhancement serving chosen purpose versus programming replacing natural direction represented philosophical distinction with profound practical implications. As they concluded their technical consultation and prepared separate after-action documentation, Temari's expression shifted subtly from professional focus to more personal assessment. Suna would benefit from extended consultation beyond summit parameters, she noted with characteristic directness. If diplomatic schedules permit, a specialized visit to our research division would advance implementation significantly. The invitation represented potential collaboration beyond current summit framework, extended partnership that would necessarily involve sustained presence in Suna rather than remote consultation. Such arrangement would require careful diplomatic consideration given his increasing centrality to various village initiatives, yet offered valuable opportunity to enhance security implementations across allied nations. "I'll discuss possibilities with Hokage-sama after summit conclusion," Naruto replied, recognizing both the value of her proposal and necessary procedural considerations. Preliminary assessment suggests mutual benefit potential sufficient to warrant serious consideration. Temari nodded, satisfied with his balanced response to what represented significant diplomatic overture despite its technical framing. "Gaara has authorized me to extend formal invitation when appropriate. Our research division has prepared specialized facilities specifically designed for integration technology assessment." This revelation suggested Suna had anticipated potential collaboration well before the current summit, strategic preparation characteristic of the Sand siblings' governance approach. Their forward-thinking diplomacy had increasingly positioned Suna as crucial alliance partner despite its smaller size compared to other major villages. After concluding their consultation and establishing follow-up protocols for technical implementation, Naruto departed the administrative complex with enhanced appreciation for inter-village collaboration possibilities emerging from the Divine Circuit crisis. What had begun as defensive response to imminent threat was evolving into cooperative framework for managing revolutionary technologies with transformative potential. The following day brought renewed summit negotiations alongside Naruto's professional responsibilities to multiple village initiatives. Between formal diplomatic sessions, he consulted with Konoha's scientific division regarding recovered technology assessment, reviewed security protocols for the perfect vessel containment facility, and coordinated with intelligence units tracking remaining Divine Circuit operatives. By mid-afternoon, the cumulative demands on his attention had reached levels that would have overwhelmed conventional cognitive capacity despite his integration-enhanced processing. Recognizing the sustainability concern Ino had identified, he implemented structured recovery protocol, a 30-minute cognitive reset in specialized meditation chamber designed for chakra harmonization. The brief recovery period proved remarkably effective, his integrated systems optimizing neural function through accelerated restoration processes. When he emerged to continue summit participation, his perception had regained optimal clarity, allowing sophisticated analysis of complex diplomatic proposals without degraded processing. As formal sessions concluded for the day, Shikamaru approached with the focused expression that signaled significant strategic developments. Intelligence Division intercepted coded communication between suspected Divine Circuit cells. Analysis suggests coordinated activity targeting multiple recovered technology repositories. The implications required no elaboration. Despite neutralizing their primary operation, they had anticipated continued activity from distributed elements attempting to recover critical technologies. These intercepts confirmed suspected coordination rather than isolated opportunistic actions by remaining operatives. Pattern analysis? Naruto inquired, immediately shifting to strategic assessment mode. Suggests two primary objectives, Shikamaru replied, activating a secure display with classified intelligence visualization. First, recovery of specific integration components from secured facilities. Second, what appears to be surveillance of the perfect vessel containment site. These priorities aligned with predictable strategic imperatives for remaining Divine Circuit elements. With their primary leadership captured and central facilities neutralized, recovering critical technology components represented logical contingency strategy attempting to preserve essential capabilities for potential future reconstruction. Security enhancement protocols? Naruto asked, analyzing the intelligence pattern with integration-enhanced perception. Already implemented at primary containment facilities, Shikamaru confirmed. but the communication pattern suggests they've identified vulnerabilities in transport protocols between research sites and secure storage. This assessment highlighted critical security gap. Recovered technology necessarily traveled between assessment facilities and permanent containment sites, creating potential vulnerability during transport despite secured endpoints. Divine Circuit's apparent awareness of these transport schedules suggested intelligence penetration beyond anticipated surveillance capabilities. We need enhanced transport security and modified scheduling, Naruto concluded, identifying immediate priorities and potential counterintelligence operation to identify their information source. Shikamaru nodded agreement, having reached similar conclusions through parallel analysis. Kakashi-sama has authorized special security team deployment for all pending technology transports. Intelligence Division is implementing source identification protocols focused on potential internal compromise. The measured response reflected balanced assessment addressing immediate security vulnerability while initiating longer-term counterintelligence operation to identify potential information leakage. Such multidimensional approach characterized Konoha's evolved security protocols under Kakashi's leadership, emphasizing systemic resilience rather than merely reactive countermeasures. As they discussed implementation details and coordination requirements, Naruto became aware of Temari's approach, her purposeful stride suggesting diplomatic rather than personal purpose. Her expression confirmed professional focus as she joined their consultation with appropriate acknowledgement of sensitive nature of their discussion. Suna Intelligence has intercepted similar communications regarding Divine Circuit activity within Wind Country borders. She informed them without unnecessary preliminaries. Analysis suggests coordinated operation targeting transport scheduled between our primary research facility and secondary containment site. This intelligence correlation confirmed suspected multinational coordination among remaining Divine Circuit elements, not isolated opportunistic actions but strategic operation targeting recovered technology across village boundaries. Such coordination suggested organizational resilience beyond anticipated capacity following leadership neutralization and primary facility loss. Timeline alignment? Shikamaru inquired, immediately identifying potential pattern significance. Within 36 hours of your scheduled transport, Temari confirmed, validating his implicit concern, suggesting either coincidental operational necessity or more likely coordinated action based on shared intelligence. The alignment suggested troubling possibilities regarding both Divine Circuit's remaining organizational capacity and potential intelligence penetration across multiple villages. Coordinated operations targeting similar objectives within narrow timeframe indicated sophisticated planning capability persisting despite significant organizational disruption. We need inter-village security coordination beyond current summit framework, Naruto concluded, identifying essential strategic response, shared transport protocols, coordinated scheduling, and integrated counterintelligence operations across affected territories. Both Shikamaru and Temari nodded agreement with this assessment, recognizing necessity for enhanced cooperation beyond existing alliance structures. Divine Circuit's distributed nature and cross-border operations required corresponding security response that transcended traditional village-specific approaches. I'm authorized to establish immediate security coordination with Konoha regarding imminent transport operations, Temari stated, her diplomatic authority evident in both tone and content. Gaara has approved joint operational parameters pending Hokage confirmation. This direct authorization reflected the Sand siblings' efficient governance approach, minimizing procedural delays when security imperatives required immediate response. Such pragmatic diplomacy had increasingly characterized Suna's international relations under Gaara's leadership, emphasizing practical cooperation over political positioning. I'll coordinate with Kakashi-sama to establish complementary authorization, Shikamaru replied, already calculating optimal implementation parameters. Preliminary assessment suggests joint security team with integrated command structure would provide optimal response capability. As they developed specific operational parameters and coordination protocols, Naruto's integration enhanced perception analyzed broader strategic implications beyond immediate security requirements. Divine Circuit's persistent operational capacity despite significant leadership loss suggested organizational structure more resilient than initial assessment had indicated, possibly including redundant command elements specifically positioned to survive primary leadership neutralization. We need to consider possibility of secondary leadership echelon, he observed, sharing this strategic concern with his colleagues. The coordination level suggested by these operations indicates organized direction beyond opportunistic survival response. Shikamaru's expression indicated he had reached similar conclusion through parallel analysis. Intelligence Division has identified several potential candidates from recovered documentation research directors with sufficient authority and technical knowledge to assume operational leadership following primary command loss. Suna Intelligence confirms similar assessment, Tamari added, demonstrating aligned analysis across village boundaries. Recovered communications suggest predetermined succession protocols activating specific individuals in event of primary leadership capture or neutralization. This consensus highlighted concerning reality regarding Divine Circuit's organizational resilience, sophisticated contingency planning that anticipated potential leadership loss and established predetermined response protocols. Such preparation indicated strategic sophistication beyond typical threat organizations, suggesting foundational ideology capable of sustaining operational continuity despite significant structural damage. As they continued developing joint security response for immediate transport operations, Naruto became aware of approaching chakra signature. He recognized instantly Hinata, accompanied by medical staff member suggesting official discharge rather than temporary release. Her movement pattern indicated full mobility rather than restricted capacity, suggesting significant recovery progress beyond expected timeline. Sure enough, when she entered the administrative complex minutes later, her appearance confirmed remarkable improvement, posture demonstrating restored vitality, while chakra signature indicated harmonized flow patterns approaching normal parameters. Though not yet fully recovered, her progress far exceeded conventional treatment projections, validating the harmonization therapy's exceptional effectiveness. Upon noticing their strategic consultation, Hinata approached with respectful acknowledgement of ongoing operations discussion. Pardon the interruption. I've been officially released for light duty status effective immediately. Hokage-sama requested I report for potential intelligence analysis contribution regarding Hyuga observations of Divine Circuit's extraction methodology. Her official purpose made perfect sense. Her direct experience with Divine Circuit's specialized extraction technology provided valuable intelligence regarding their operational capabilities and methodological approach. Combined with Hyuga perceptual abilities, her observations offered unique insight unavailable through conventional intelligence sources. Your timing is excellent, Shikamaru acknowledged, immediately integrating her potential contribution into ongoing strategic assessment. We're analyzing apparent coordination between Divine Circuit cells targeting technology transports across multiple villages. Your observations regarding their extraction methodology may provide relevant operational insights. With characteristic efficiency, Hinata quickly assimilated the strategic situation and identified potential contribution areas. Their extraction approach demonstrated sophisticated understanding of Kekkei-Genkai isolation parameters, specifically, ability to identify and selectively harvest genetic sequences related to dojutsu activation without triggering cellular rejection responses. Such capability suggests potential interest in optical surveillance countermeasures for transport operations. Her analysis highlighted specific vulnerability concern highly relevant to security planning. Divine Circuit's demonstrated expertise with visual Kekkei-Genkai suggested potential capability to neutralize or circumvent dojutsu-based security measures during transport operations. This insight immediately influenced security planning parameters, suggesting necessary countermeasure adjustments beyond standard protocols. Excellent assessment, Tamari acknowledged with professional appreciation. Suna's transport security relied heavily on enhanced visual surveillance techniques. Your insight necessitates strategic recalibration. As they incorporated this intelligence into developing security protocols, Naruto observed Hinata with both personal and professional appreciation. Despite recent trauma and ongoing recovery, her analytical contribution demonstrated characteristic combination of technical precision and strategic relevance that made her increasingly valuable in inter-village security operations. The expanded strategy session continued through evening hours, developing comprehensive security protocols for coordinated transport operations across village boundaries. With Hinata's insights regarding Divine Circuit's extraction methodologies, they established enhanced countermeasures specifically addressing potential dojutsu vulnerability, while Temari's intelligence regarding Wind Country operational patterns provided valuable context for timing and approach vectors. By session conclusion, they had established integrated security framework incorporating elements from multiple village traditions: Konoha's shadow operations expertise, Suna's desert surveillance techniques, and specialized sensory approaches developed through shared intelligence analysis. This collaborative methodology represented significant evolution beyond traditional village-specific security approaches, demonstrating Alliance advancement toward truly integrated defensive capabilities. As they prepared final documentation for respective village leadership review, Tamari approached Naruto with professional directness that characterized her diplomatic style. Your integration capabilities would provide significant security enhancement for our primary transport operation. Given coordination concerns identified, Suna formally requests your participation in joint security team deployment. The request represented significant diplomatic development formal mission request across village boundaries outside conventional alliance framework. While cooperative operations had become increasingly common following Fourth War reconciliation, direct requests for specific individuals remained relatively unusual, particularly involving someone of Naruto's strategic significance within Konoha leadership. Subject to Hokage authorization, I believe such cooperation aligns with established security priorities, he replied, acknowledging both the request's legitimacy and necessary procedural considerations. Preliminary assessment suggests mutual benefit sufficient to warrant favorable consideration. Tamari nodded appreciation for his balanced response, understanding both the affirmative intent and appropriate diplomatic qualification. Gaara has authorized me to extend formal mission requests through established channels. Given timeline considerations, expedited review would be appreciated. I'll discuss immediately with Kakashi-sama, Naruto assured her, recognizing the operational urgency underlying her request. Security considerations suggest authorization priority should be elevated accordingly. With coordination parameters established and follow-up protocols defined, the strategy session concluded with clear action items for all participants. Shikamaru departed to brief Kakashi regarding joint operation recommendations and authorization requirements, while Tamari prepared formal documentation for Suna leadership confirmation of integrated security approach. As others dispersed to respective assignments, Naruto found himself momentarily alone with Hinata, the first opportunity for personal interaction since her unexpected hospital release earlier that day. Despite professional environment and ongoing operational concerns, he felt genuine pleasure at her improved condition beyond strategic considerations. Your recovery progress is remarkable, he observed with sincere appreciation. The harmonization therapy appears significantly more effective than initial projections suggested. Hinata nodded agreement, her expression reflecting both medical acknowledgement and personal satisfaction with recovery progress. Sakura-san was quite amazed by the chakra pathway regeneration rate. She's already incorporating findings into potential treatment protocols for similar disruption patterns. This therapeutic application represented significant medical advancement beyond their specific treatment context. Potential methodology for addressing chakra network disruptions previously considered permanent or requiring extended recovery periods. Such development highlighted positive outcomes emerging from divine circuit confrontation despite its inherently negative genesis. And your Byakugan function? He inquired, knowing this represented her greatest professional concern given its centrality to both her shinobi capabilities and clan responsibilities. Approximately 80% normal parameter function, she replied with characteristic precision. Sufficient for standard observation applications though still restricted for extended deployment or combat activation. Continued harmonization therapy should restore complete functionality within 2 to 3 additional sessions based on current progression rate. This prognosis far exceeded conventional medical expectations for such specialized chakra pathway damage, confirming the harmonization therapy's exceptional effectiveness for Kekkei-Genkai-related disruptions. Such results suggested potentially revolutionary treatment approach for previously intractable conditions affecting specialized chakra manifestations. I've been authorized for limited diplomatic functions effective immediately, Hinata continued, transitioning to professional implications of her improved condition. The Hyuga clan has requested my participation in specialized summit discussions regarding Kekkei-Genkai security protocols in context of Divine Circuit's demonstrated extraction capabilities. This assignment made perfect strategic sense given her unique combination of direct experience with Divine Circuit's extraction methodology and Hyuga clan authority regarding dojutsu protection protocols. Her perspective would provide valuable contribution to developing security frameworks protecting genetic heritage across village boundaries, a concern shared by all bloodline-focused clans following Divine Circuit's demonstrated targeting approach. An important contribution, Naruto acknowledged with genuine respect for both the assignment's significance and her capability to fulfill it despite recent trauma. especially given timeline concerns for establishing comprehensive protection protocols. Their conversation might have continued further had Shikamaru not returned with characteristic purposeful stride indicating significant developments. Kakashi-sama has authorized joint security operation with Suna as requested, he reported without unnecessary preliminaries. Additionally, Intelligence Division has identified potential divine circuit staging area within Wind Country borders based on communication pattern analysis. This intelligence development significantly enhanced operational planning parameters, providing specific target location rather than merely theoretical transport vulnerability. Combined with authorized joint operation, this information created opportunity for proactive security response rather than merely defensive transport protection. Preemptive neutralization operation? Naruto inquired, immediately identifying strategic possibility. Precisely, Shikamaru confirmed. Hokage authorization includes optional offensive parameters pending case concurrence and operational viability assessment. Tamari has been notified and is consulting with Suna leadership regarding integrated approach. This expanded authorization represented significant trust in field leadership judgment permission to transition from defensive transport security to offensive counteraction based on developing intelligence without requiring additional approval cycles. Such operational flexibility reflected Kakashi's leadership philosophy emphasizing field-level decision authority within established strategic parameters. Timeline considerations? Hinata asked, immediately focusing on critical operational parameter. Transport scheduled for tomorrow at 0600 hours, Shikamaru replied. Intelligence suggests divine circuit operation planned for interception approximately 4 hours into transport route. Potential staging area located 3 hours from projected interception coordinates. These timeline parameters created challenging but viable operational window sufficient time for coordinated preemptive action if properly executed, but minimal margin for deployment delays or intelligence inaccuracies. Such compressed timeframe would require exceptional coordination between villages traditionally accustomed to more deliberate joint operation planning. I recommend immediate deployment preparation, Naruto concluded, recognizing timeline imperatives. Joint planning can continue during initial movement phase with final approach strategy determined based on advance reconnaissance. Shikamaru nodded agreement with this assessment. Hokage authorization includes immediate deployment parameters. Advance team departing within 30 minutes to establish preliminary surveillance, main security force following at 2-hour interval. I'll coordinate the advance team, Naruto decided, recognizing his integration capabilities provided optimal reconnaissance advantages for preliminary assessment. My sensory range should provide comprehensive staging area evaluation without compromising operational security. This approach aligned with optimal utilization of specialized capabilities. His integration enhanced perception, allowing detailed surveillance beyond conventional reconnaissance limitations, potentially identifying divine circuit technological signatures undetectable through standard methods. Such advantage could prove crucial given compressed timeline and limited intelligence regarding specific operational parameters. Tamari has requested joint command structure for main security force, Shikamaru added, addressing operational coordination requirements. Given your advanced team position, I'll assume Konoha contingent leadership for integration with Suna command elements. This command arrangement made strategic sense given respective positioning and specialized capabilities. Naruto's advanced reconnaissance role leveraged his unique integration advantages, while Shikamaru's tactical coordination expertise provided optimal interface with Suna's command structure under compressed planning conditions. With operational parameters established and authorization confirmed, preparation proceeded with practiced efficiency. Naruto reported to Equipment Division for specialized reconnaissance gear while Shikamaru coordinated main force composition and deployment logistics. Hinata, though not cleared for full combat operations, received authorization for limited intelligence support functions leveraging her Byakugan capabilities within safe operational parameters. 40 minutes later, Naruto departed Konoha with 3-person advanced reconnaissance teams specialized sensory-type shinobi selected for complementary perception capabilities covering different detection spectrums. Their movement toward Wind Country proceeded at accelerated pace, utilizing specialized transportation techniques that maximized speed while minimizing detectable chakra signatures. As they approached border-crossing coordinates, Naruto detected familiar chakra signature approaching from Suna direction Tamari, accompanied by 2 sand shinobi demonstrating specialized sensory capabilities similar to Konoha's reconnaissance experts. Her presence indicated case-cage authorization matching Konoha's operational parameters, establishing true joint operation rather than merely coordinated parallel activities. Case-cage authorization confirmed for integrated operation including preemptive neutralization options, Tamari reported as their teams converged at predetermined coordinates. Suna Intelligence has refined staging area location based on specialized desert tracking techniques. Coordinates transmitted to both advanced team and main security force. This intelligence refinement provided valuable operational enhancement, more precise targeting parameters, reducing necessary reconnaissance range and increasing probability of complete staging area identification before divine circuit operational activation. Such cooperation demonstrated significant alliance evolution from traditional village-specific approaches toward truly integrated security methodology. Their combined reconnaissance team proceeded toward refined coordinates with enhanced stealth protocols, utilizing specialized desert movement techniques Suna operatives provided for optimal approach security. Naruto's integration enhanced perception extended their effective surveillance range considerably, detecting subtle technological signatures beyond conventional sensory capabilities as they neared suspected staging area. Multiple technological signatures detected approximately 2 kilometers ahead, he reported as distinctive energy patterns registered in his enhanced awareness. Signature correlation with recovered divine circuit equipment exceeds 90% confidence threshold. This confirmation validated intelligence assessment regarding staging area location while providing valuable advance warning regarding technological composition. The signature pattern suggested sophisticated operation beyond simple transport interception, multiple equipment types indicating comprehensive extraction capability rather than merely neutralization approach. Formation configuration suggests approximately 20 operatives, added senior Suna sensory specialist after conducting specialized desert vibration analysis. Movement patterns indicate established operational base rather than temporary staging position. This assessment suggested more significant divine circuit presence than initially anticipated, established forward operating base rather than merely mission-specific staging area. Such installation implied longer-term regional strategy beyond single transport interception, potentially including multiple operations against different targets across proximate territories. After establishing comprehensive surveillance perimeter around confirmed divine circuit position, their reconnaissance team implemented specialized observation techniques providing detailed operational intelligence without risking detection. Naruto's integration capabilities proved particularly valuable during this phase, his enhanced perception detecting specific technological configurations invisible to conventional observation methods. They're assembling specialized extraction equipment, he reported after analyzing observed technological signatures. Configuration similar to equipment used during Hyuga extraction operation but modified for enhanced mobility. Purpose appears designed for rapid acquisition rather than detailed analysis, suggesting capture and transport objective rather than field processing. This assessment provided crucial insight regarding divine circuit's likely operational approach, attempting to capture intact technology for later detailed examination rather than conducting field analysis during interception. Such methodology aligned with organizational recovery strategy following primary facility loss, prioritizing technology preservation over immediate application development. Temporal indicators suggest operational activation within approximately 8 hours, Tamari observed after analyzing preparation patterns, aligning with projected transport interception coordinates based on scheduled movement timeline. This confirmation validated intelligence assessment regarding intended transport interception while providing specific activation timeline for operational planning. With main security force approximately 4 hours from current position, they had viable window for coordinated preemptive operation before divine circuit activation, assuming proper execution and minimal deployment complications. Recommend main force deployment directly to staging area rather than transport escort configuration, Naruto suggested, identifying optimal strategic approach based on confirmed intelligence. Preemptive neutralization eliminates interception threat entirely while potentially securing valuable intelligence regarding remaining organizational structure. Tamari nodded agreement with this assessment. Concur with preemptive approach. Staging area location provides tactical advantages for containment operation with minimal collateral risk given isolated desert positioning. Their consensus recommendation transmitted to respective command elements, implementing predetermined authorization for operational transition from defensive escort to offensive preemption based on confirmed intelligence. Within minutes, they received confirmation of main force redirection according to revised operational parameters, with estimated arrival at staging area perimeter within 3 hours. With preemptive operation confirmed, their reconnaissance team transitioned to comprehensive preparation phase, establishing detailed terrain mapping, identifying optimal approach vectors, and developing containment parameters ensuring complete target isolation. Naruto's integration capabilities provided particular advantage during this planning phase, his enhanced perception identifying subtle topographical features offering tactical advantages invisible to conventional observation. As main security force approached staging area coordinates, Joint Command established final operational parameters based on consolidated reconnaissance intelligence. The approach would utilize natural terrain features for concealed deployment, establishing complete containment perimeter before initiating direct neutralization. Primary objective remained intact: capture of Divine Circuit operatives for intelligence purposes, with secondary priority on securing technological assets without damage. When Integrated Security Force reached final approach coordinates, Naruto rejoined main operational elements for coordinated neutralization execution. The combined force represented impressive alliance evolution. Konoha and Suna Shinobi organized in mixed tactical units leveraging complementary capabilities rather than maintaining separate operational structures. Shadow manipulation specialists paired with desert concealment experts, sensory teams combining diverse perception techniques, and command structure integrating leadership elements from both villages into unified decision authority. Containment perimeter established on all vectors. Shikamaru reported as final deployment completed according to planned configuration. Specialized barrier techniques implemented with both physical and chakra suppression parameters active. Extraction countermeasures positioned at all potential escape coordinates, added Suna Operation Commander with complementary confirmation. Desert manipulation techniques active for surface movement detection across entire operational zone. With comprehensive security measures implemented and complete surveillance coverage established, the operation transitioned to direct neutralization phase. Rather than conventional assault approach, they implemented specialized infiltration strategy targeting communications and sensory systems first, effectively blinding Divine Circuit operatives before they could recognize imminent threat. Naruto's role in this phase leveraged his unique integration capabilities, his transformed systems interfacing directly with Divine Circuit technology to implement disruption protocols specifically calibrated to their operational frequencies. This approach effectively neutralized their sophisticated equipment without alerting operators to external interference, creating critical vulnerability window for physical containment. Technological disruption confirmed across all monitored frequencies. He reported as integration enhanced perception verified comprehensive effectiveness. Estimated 90-second window before manual override protocols potentially activate. This confirmation triggered coordinated physical infiltration, specialized teams moving with synchronized precision to secure critical positions before Divine Circuit operatives could implement contingency responses. The operation proceeded with remarkable efficiency, joint teams functioning as unified force despite originating from traditionally separate village structures. Within 3 minutes, the entire Divine Circuit staging area had been secured with minimal resistance and no casualties on either side. 23 operatives captured intact, along with comprehensive technological assets including specialized extraction equipment configured for transport interception. The preemptive approach had proven completely effective, neutralizing imminent threat while securing valuable intelligence assets for ongoing counter-operations. As secured prisoners were processed for transport to interrogation facilities, Naruto conducted comprehensive assessment of captured technology with integration-enhanced perception. The equipment configuration confirmed their operational objective: specialized extraction devices designed for rapid acquisition of intact technological components with minimal field processing requirements. Their primary target appears confirmed as specific integration components rather than complete systems, he reported after analyzing equipment specifications. Particular focus on neural interface modules similar to those incorporated in perfect vessel development. This assessment aligned with intelligence regarding Divine Circuit's apparent recovery strategy, attempting to preserve critical technological components for potential future reconstruction rather than immediately implementing reduced capability operations. Such approach suggested long-term organizational persistence beyond current disruption, prioritizing foundational capacity preservation over immediate operational restoration. Preliminary prisoner assessment confirms hierarchical command structure, Shikamaru added based on initial interrogation results. Field commander reports directly to Secondary Leadership Council established as contingency following primary leadership neutralization. This confirmation validated earlier concerns regarding organizational resilience, sophisticated contingency planning, including predetermined leadership succession and distributed operational authority. Such structure suggested Divine Circuit represented persistent threat requiring comprehensive counter-strategy beyond immediate operational neutralization. Recovered documentation indicates additional staging areas established in multiple countries, Tamari reported after reviewing captured intelligence materials. Appears designed as distributed recovery network operating semi-autonomously toward shared technological preservation objectives. This intelligence significantly expanded understanding of remaining threat parameters, not isolated opportunistic actions but coordinated campaign operating across international boundaries with specific strategic objectives. Such distributed approach necessitated corresponding counter-strategy transcending traditional village-specific security operations toward truly integrated alliance response. As joint security forces secured the area and prepared captured assets for transport to appropriate analysis facilities, Naruto found himself reviewing the operation with strategic appreciation beyond immediate tactical success. The integrated approach combining capabilities across village boundaries toward shared security objectives represented significant alliance evolution from traditional cooperation models toward truly unified methodology. This operation demonstrated what's possible through genuine integration, observed Tamari as they supervised final containment procedures for captured technology. Not merely coordinated parallel activities but truly unified approach leveraging complementary capabilities. Her assessment echoed Naruto's own thoughts regarding operational significance beyond immediate security consequences. The methodology they had implemented, mixed tactical units, integrated command structure, shared intelligence application, represented evolutionary advancement in alliance operations with implications extending far beyond current Divine Circuit threat. The approach deserves formalization beyond current mission parameters, he agreed, recognizing broader strategic potential. Standardized protocols for integrated operations would enhance response capabilities across multiple threat categories. Tamari nodded agreement with this assessment. Gaara has been advocating similar framework development within Alliance leadership. This operation provides compelling demonstration of practical benefits. Their conversation continued as joint teams completed necessary security procedures and prepared for return transportation with captured prisoners and technology. Throughout, Naruto found himself appreciating both the operational success and broader implications for Alliance evolution, practical demonstration of integrated approach that transcended traditional boundaries toward truly unified security methodology. As they departed the neutralized staging area with secured assets and prisoners, he reflected on parallels between this operational integration and his own technological transformation, different elements combining toward enhanced capabilities while maintaining fundamental identity and purpose. Where Divine Circuit had sought replacement and control, both his personal evolution and the Alliance development demonstrated different paradigm integration, enhancing rather than replacing foundational characteristics. That philosophical distinction represented crucial difference between competing visions for future development enhancement, serving chosen purpose versus technological determination replacing human direction. The successful operation had demonstrated practical benefits of the former approach at organizational level, just as his personal integration exemplified its advantages at individual scale. As their combined forces returned toward respective villages with shared intelligence assets and cooperative analysis plans, Naruto recognized that the Divine Circuit threat had inadvertently accelerated Alliance evolution beyond what might otherwise have developed through conventional diplomatic processes. The shared challenge had catalyzed practical integration that theoretical discussions alone might never have achieved. In that unexpected outcome lay important strategic lessons. Sometimes external threat provided necessary motivation for internal advancement that might otherwise remain theoretical rather than operational. The emerging integrated security methodology represented significant positive development despite its negative catalyst, demonstrating how even dangerous challenges could ultimately strengthen rather than weaken cooperative frameworks when approached with appropriate perspective. Chapter 3 End.